All right, and welcome to Making Law Simple. My name is David Helm, but a humble lawyer from the state of Michigan. Uh, and today we have some maybe not shocking, maybe not even sad at the end of the day, but news about Nick Rekieta. If you guys don't know who Nick Rekieta is, why are you even here? But Nick Rekieta is a YouTuber, law tuber, some would say, the Pope of LawTube. He is actually I discovered him through Viva Fry, a number of years ago. He had great coverage of the Rittenhouse case, of the Johnny Depp case. I should have put as seen on Rekieta right here. I've been on his channel a couple of times, and unfortunately, he was arrested yesterday at some point, or at least he was booked into the county jail yesterday afternoon. And from what it appears from the records that we have, for possession, fifth degree possession of a Schedule 1, 2, 3, or 4, and controlled substance, I should say, and also in possession of a firearm while being in possession of a controlled substance. And so today, I still working on it, working on the technicalities of it, but we do have a Zoom link and access to the arraignment, which is supposed to be scheduled to start in about 13 minutes. So while we are waiting for that, I'll just take a moment to say hello, everybody, new and old. I see Irish. It says Iris, but it's Irish. Welcome, everybody. I see Wendy H, Aaron Olivia. Hey there. Welcome, Aaron. And everyone else in the chat. We also have some over on Rumble. I am streaming on Rumble, Twitch, Facebook, X, and YouTube. So if you are not finding me in any of those locations, I'm not on TikTok, sorry. But welcome all. So what I hope to do is, I don't know a lot of the backstory. Like I said, I started watching Nick. He was my introduction into LawTube. And then when I started streaming trials last year, we had connected and I'd been on his channel a couple of times. But he streams really late, later than I am usually awake. And so I don't typically watch him. However, I did catch his show last Friday night when I was in Tennessee with Valhalla and a few other guys. And he seemed a little out of it. And it's definitely a sign of something wrong. And hopefully he, through this process, I know it's bad, but maybe he'll get the help that he needs. What law do I practice? I am a criminal defense attorney, as well as I do family law and I do civil litigation. So I basically sue people, but not personal injury. I don't chase ambulances or anything like that. Most of my civil litigation is sort of corporate business litigation. So that is my area of practice. So I have some experience with drug-related criminal offenses. And I will say that if it's your first offense, it will undoubtedly, it will result in some sort of plea offer with Nick getting the help that he needs. And again, we're assuming all of this is true, right? Don't know the facts of what exactly led to the call. We have some speculation. We have some documents, actually, that can help us with that speculation. And let me see if I could just pull this up here. All right. So this is what sparked the news yesterday. It was essentially this post. And this is Nick and his wife indicating that they were arrested for the offenses that I just described. Earlier today, I got a hold of this document, which is an indictment, or not, I'm sorry, not an indictment. It's an incident report. And this incident report claims that on May 16th, so last week, a mandatory reporter said that they wanted to speak with an officer regarding potential child abuse or neglect. And that could be anything, right? We're talking about potentially Child Protective Services saying, hey, there's a concern. Someone called in and said there's drug use going on in a house with 5 people. Or it could have been the neighbors that heard a kid scream. It literally could be anything. And just like a traffic stop that ends up where the the driver is arrested for drug possession or something. It could start as mundane as that. Hey, there's a call coming in. Let's go check it out. They go there and they see something that then escalates, and then they see something that then escalates. And we're all just speculating at this point as to what this would exactly be. I did redact the addresses. I know the addresses are out there, but I don't want to dox Nick. But eventually it resulted in 3 arrests. And so we have the arrest of Nick, his wife, and then another woman, April. And I don't know the whole backstory. I know there's people out there that know this whole backstory, and I'm sure someone in the chat is yelling at me that that's not a babysitter and whatever. But apparently there was a third adult woman in the home that also was arrested. And mandatory reporter is specific. Yeah, I know. It's right. I mean, who's a mandatory reporter? Teachers, nurses, therapists, anyone essentially that's licensed by the state, except attorneys, are mandatory reporters. Well, at least in Michigan, attorneys are not mandatory reporters because that would cause a violation of the attorney-client privilege. But essentially, anyone in the state generally is a mandatory reporter. Oh, you want a license to go farm mushrooms? Great, you're going to be a mandatory reporter. It's that kind of thing. It doesn't say who the mandatory reporter is, if it's Amy or not. And I know Amy is the ex-wife of Aaron. There's speculation that it could be Aaron. If you guys don't know the whole of the backstory, I'll give a little bit of the vague information, and it could be completely wrong. And I'm just spreading rumors, so take it with a grain of salt. Apparently, there's a couple, Aaron and April, that became friends with Nick and his wife. Aaron, the husband, didn't like some of the suspected or alleged drug use going on. April apparently had no issue with it. It caused a rift in their marriage. April moved in with Rekieta and his wife, and she is the woman that's being arrested here along with them today, or yesterday, anyways. That's the rumor that's out there. Again, have no clue if it's true. And so the question is did Aaron call? Did Amy is Aaron's ex-wife, by the way. So Amy is Aaron's ex-wife, whom I'm told they have children together. So was it Amy was the mandatory reporter? I don't know. Maybe Amy called Child Protective Services. These things happen, right? So someone calls Child Protective Services. Child Protective Services calls up the mother and the father and says, "Hey, we've got a complaint. Can we stop by and have a meeting? Can we talk about this?" And you can agree to or not agree to do that sort of thing. And then it's generally best to at least appease them to some extent, like talk with them. Don't necessarily let them in the house. And maybe it was the CPS worker who's the mandatory reporter. Not a clue. Maybe it's a neighbor who's a nurse who's classified as. I mean, we're just speculating. Whatever the reason for the call, however it happened, apparently they were arrested. And what I'm hoping to do is bring you the Zoom feed for the okay, cool. Bring you the Zoom feed. Now, I've been emailing. If you guys don't know, when you want to cover court cases, although I'm not in Minnesota, I try to do things the right way. Like if I'm covering a case in Michigan, I have to file a notice of media coverage with the court to let everybody know that I'm going to be covering this as a member of the media. Now, I did the same thing with this. I filed my notice of media coverage, and okay, so I've been going back and forth with the court, so that's why I was a little distracted earlier. I just wanted to make sure that the court had my notice and that we were all good. And so I just got an email back that says I can attend the remote hearing via Zoom. All right, we're good to go. So we should be able to cover this. It was Zoom all along. Yes. So as soon as the court goes live, we will the screen will pop up and we'll have audio and everything, and we'll see what happens. It might be just the three of them. I doubt it. It's probably going to be like, half a dozen to a dozen arraignments. It's a small county, so I don't know how many arraignments they have scheduled. It's not like this is the only time for, at 11 a.m. Central is Nick's case. It might just be he's with the batch of arraignments for that morning. It might be all three of them. It might be just Nick. I did call specifically about just Nick to confirm that. So we at least know that Nick is going to be arraigned at 11 a.m. Central Time. So it's 4 minutes from now. And hopefully we'll be able to hear what happens. Now, the purpose of an arraignment is to inform the defendant of the charges against him, inform him of his rights, that he has a right to have a trial, he has the right to call witnesses, to cross-examine witnesses. He is informed of the maximum penalty and whether or not he wants to retain counsel or have a court-appointed counsel, and then bond will be set. And when there's drug offenses, bond always, I'm going to say typically, but always has a like a drug testing component to it. So bond's going to be set. If it's his first offense, it should be a PR bond, personal recognizances, just promise to come back and appear for further hearings, and he should be able to walk out today. All three of them should be able to walk out, assuming it's their first offense. Now, again, I'm saying all this without knowing any of the facts. Like, the state could come in, the prosecutor could argue for no bond because of some horrendous event that we don't know about. But I wanted to go over the statute itself because I think there's some misunderstandings regarding the statute. There's a lot of, did he have all four of these drugs? What exactly was going on? Was he selling it? Was he just in possession of it? So this is the statute here. This is 152.024, controlled substance crimes in the fourth degree. So this is the sale of crimes, is subsection 1. But if you notice, he's being charged under subsection 2. So that would be this, which is possession of the controlled substance. So a person is guilty of a controlled substance crime in the fourth degree if the person unlawfully possesses one or more of the mixtures contained hallucinogens. They go through the whole description of it in a different statute. But essentially, all the common unlawful drugs we think of are contained here. So if he is in possession of it and he's found guilty, a person convicted under subsection 1 or 2 may be sentenced to imprisonment of not more than 15 years or a payment or fine of not more than $100,000 or both. So that is the possible sentence here. Again, highly unlikely. When you're dealing with these drug cases anymore, the courts see these as more drug use, right? I'm not going to say distribution is the same, but drug use is seen more and more by courts as a mental health issue that people need to be cured from. And so they oftentimes impose really rigorous probationary terms, treatment classes, substance abuse classes, therapy and counseling, drug testing and things like that, as opposed to throwing the book at them. So my suspicion, I'm going to predict this now, the firearm charge will be dismissed with turning over the firearms. So he's going to have to turn over the firearms. They'll dismiss the firearm charge. There'll be a guilty plea to the drug, and he'll get sort of like a treatment court program. That's my prediction of the end result of this, which is probably good for him, especially looking at what's been going on his streams and things like that. It's probably a good thing for him if he can follow the program. Now, the other charge is the possession of a firearm. Now, if you go up here to the first part of this statute, which is 624.713, there's a lot of illegal persons, under the 18, prohibited firearms. If you've been convicted of a prior offense. If you're a felon and you're in possession of a firearm, there's all that stuff. And everyone's like, he's not a felon. He's not a felon. But if you go to subsection 10, it says subsection 10, Romanet 3, is an unlawful user of a controlled substance as defined in chapter 152, which is what we just went over. So if you're using a controlled substance, that's illegal, and you are in possession of a firearm at the same time, that's a violation of the statute. So he doesn't have to be selling it, or he doesn't have to be a prior felon or have a prior conviction or domestic violence. Everyone's speculating about what prior crimes does Nick have. And I don't know if you can hear my dog. I apologize for that. But he doesn't have to have one if he's using a controlled substance. Let's see. I didn't know what the MLS panel is. Hey, Law of Self-Defense. Andrew, welcome. You want a link? I'll send you a link. Hang on a second. Let me send you a link. Because you're good people and you would have a lot of information, potentially. I'll send you a link. Where are you? I must be getting like a delivery or something because my dog's going crazy. So just hang on one second. We still don't have a court feed yet. As soon as we have a court feed, it'll pop up on my window here. You guys will see it. Oh, I need to find you. Law of why can't I find you? There you are. All right, Andrew, I'm sending you a link. All right, if you want to join, you are welcome to. He was charged under 2-1. Okay, well, let's check out 2-1. Hang on one second. So I have some strange lady in a hat at my door, apparently. So he was charged under what, 2-1? Oh, subsection 2-1, possession. A person unlawfully possesses one or more mixtures contained in his packaged in a dosage unit equal to 10 or more dosage units. So that's subsection 2-1. That's what he's being charged with. Okay. Person convicted under subdivision 1 or 2 shall be committed. Oh, no, that's not it. Okay, I don't think it changes the possible penalties, but I think you're right. It is a technicality, so it would be, subsection 2.1 I see here. All right. Sorry, Bronca, I just sent you, let's see, 5th degree. You need to look at the 5th degree. You looked at 2.4. Did I look at 2.4? Did I look at the wrong one? Oh, you're right. Oh my God, you're right. All right, hang on a second. There we go. Okay, subsection 2.1. Unlawfully possession one or more mixtures of cocaine. Okay, so you're right. This is 5th degree. I apologize, you all. It's a 5-year, $10,000. Thank you, Bronca, for pointing that out. I had the right statue up. I know what I did. I searched it, and then it had all these highlights, and I went to refresh the screen, and I hit on 24. That's what I did. So it's 25. Oh, okay. My assessment is the same. The statute was wrong. We're doing it live, people. We're doing it live. Did you just see him? We still have no feed. I got word. We're good. So they should let me in. I got my email. Oh, there's Law Talk with Mike here. Oh, I got all kinds of people here. Hey, Mike. Welcome, sir. Welcome. Judge Hanson. Yes, Judge Hanson is the judge that's conducting the arraignment. And again, the arraignment is just to advise him of the charges against him, the nature of the charges, possible penalty. and set bond. Hey, Bronca, how you doing?
Hey, man. Whoop, let me try again. Let me get my screens correct. I don't know if you want me on. I don't have much of substance to say, to be honest with you. I did a very short little stream this morning about it, 5-10 minutes, and but I saw you were covering the arraignment, so I thought I would take a look at that.
Yeah, I just thought, well, what I try to do here is try to explain some of the legal processes. And what most people skip out on is the arraignment, which is actually kind of fairly important, especially for how the case is going to go forward. Everyone thinks he's going to be incarcerated for the weekend and or longer, but he's going to have stringent bond requirements for sure. He's going to have drug testing, but I thought it would be important to see exactly the nature of the charges as they're laid out in court and what his bond might actually be.
Yeah, I mean, what's he going to do? Of course, he's going to plead no guilty. I guess we'll hear the bond conditions, as you say, and
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be no drugs, no guns. It's the usual stuff.
Yeah, sometimes with the bond arguments, if the prosecutor is there, they will sometimes go through the alleged facts of the incident to establish the bond. Like I said, if there are some weird out there facts that we don't know about that might indicate a need for, say, a higher bond or
Yeah,
some
if
different
the state
restrictions.
wants to play hardball, then we're going to hear that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the other reasons why I wanted to try to do this. And it wasn't going to be like televised. So now there's a record of it and things like that. So we can see if they do allege weird facts, and maybe we can get a little bit of a glimpse into or just a look into what exactly happened. No guns, no drugs, no kids. I don't know about the no kids part. That's probably not going to be for this court's purview. That would be a separate matter that would be handled under like the Department of Human Services or
CPS,
Child Protective
sure.
Services. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know anything about that, but I'm aware that this was a mandatory reporting event that came in. That's why this all happened. So
Yeah.
I assume CPS, or whatever the Minnesota version of CPS has been activated, and all that usual stuff has happened.
Yeah. What's the worst nightmare scenario for Nick? Well, I mean, we've gone through the possible penalties, right? It's 5 years, as Andrew corrected me. It's 5 years prison time. That's the worst. I mean, right? 5 years in prison, that seems bad. The likelihood of that is slim to none. Again, my prediction is he will have to forfeit the guns and the gun charge will be dismissed. And then he will plead guilty to the drug possession charge with treatment and probation. That's my prediction. And it could be up to like 5 years probation, depending, since this is a felony. If it was like a misdemeanor, I would say maybe 1 year. But again, let's see. Remain the devices to observer. Okay, I need to rename my device. So, Bronca, if you want to talk while I figure this out.
Sure. Yeah, there's really no fighting these kinds of cases because they're possession cases, and if the drugs were there, the drugs were there. It's unless it turns out to be baby powder or something in a test, but that's not going to happen here. So the question is just what are the normal practices in this court for these kinds of drug violations? And I'm not familiar with the Minnesota courts and how they deal with drug cases. Drug cases are not my area of expertise, so it could be a wide range of things. It could be routinely plea down to a misdemeanor for a first offense, no time served, some kind of drug monitoring for some period of time. It could be that this prosecutor wants to run for governor and has a hard on for these kinds of cases, drugs, guns, kids in the house kind of cases. I don't know. I think we'll get a glimpse into that with the arraignment. I mean, if the state's already decided they want to go hard, we'll hear it here because they'll push for a severe bond and severe conditions.
All right, let me see if that worked. Yeah, I might just log. I don't want to log out. It's on this particular screen that they have up, which is like this welcome window sort of thing, I don't know how to actually change my name. They want me to change it to observer. And I think I did it right. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think this is, if you have a problem, then this is an opportunity to get past it. This is an opportunity with people watching, holding a lot of penalties over your head, to be able to help you and get past this. And that's really what the court's focuses on drug charges are lately. They really try to help these people for a number of reasons. They don't want them back is the biggest one. Drug use cases clog up the court system like mad, and they don't want them in prisons. And so they try to help these people as much, and they will give them chance after chance after chance. I have had a number of clients that have stumbled and fallen and tested dirty and missed tests and all this stuff, and they don't throw them in jail. They maybe give them a weekend or something if it happens a number of times, but they're really geared towards helping them out. And so at the end of the day, Nick's not going to prison for this, guys.
And for all the people in the comments asking about his law license, so I'm a member of the bar in Massachusetts. I don't know how they do it in Minnesota. In Massachusetts, I would not expect Nick to permanently lose his law license over this. It's actually pretty hard to permanently lose your law license. The best way to do it is to screw around with client money, and then they'll take your license away. But anything short of that, they may suspend your license, but almost invariably there's a way to get it back. And by the way, for lawyers, drug and alcohol problems are like the most common reasons they get effed up and have the bar start looking to suspend their license in the first place. That's a huge problem in the legal profession.
Yes,
and Nick's not really practicing anyway, so not that he'd want to lose his license. You always want that as an option, but yeah, I wouldn't expect that. This is not like some kind of automatic disbarment. That's not the case.
Oh yeah, definitely not. Again, even a lot of bars, I know the Michigan Bar Association has it. They have a lot of substance abuse help for attorneys. For some reason, there's a lot of stress that goes with it, and attorneys tend to self-medicate as a result of that stress. So it's not a terribly uncommon problem, unfortunately. But if a lawyer got disbarred for drug, we wouldn't have many lawyers. Yeah,
Right.
I guess.
Yep. It's a huge problem. And I don't think Nick was on law enforcement radar screen. I think, any of us, anyone who is watching his streams lately would have intuited that there was a problem happening. And I know people were calling me about it, and people were concerned about Nick and were concerned about his kids. And it was only a matter of time before someone made a reporting, if only for the kids' sake. So, and I'm sure that's what happened. Someone made that call in because they were concerned about the kids, and that triggers the police response. And that's where we are today.
Where's the court feed? So we are, sorry. I can't, the chat's going by too fast. So we are waiting on the Zoom feed to pop up as soon as they go live. They've asked us to rename ourselves. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so this says, all right, I think that's just a blanket statement because I've got email permission to cover this. You can attend the remote hearing over Zoom here, and gave me all the login information. So
for what it's worth, folks, because I see someone saying they thought it was me who might have made the call. It wasn't me, but I wouldn't blame anyone for making the call.
No, I wouldn't either. When there's children involved, it's definitely a good call to make. And it doesn't have to result in this, right? If there's a call, like a lot of people call Child Protective Services and say, hey, there's something going on here, can you investigate? And most of those cases go unsubstantiated. Like in Michigan, we have the complaint is substantiated, meaning that there's probable cause that something's going on here, and we're going to provide services, or at the worst case, we're going to try to terminate parental rights. But the vast majority, 99% of them, go unsubstantiated. Yep, we went out there, we took a look, nothing's going on, close the file. So it doesn't have to result in this just because the call was made. It's the events that took place that led to these charges. So, and we just don't know what those are. There's an incident report floating around. Yeah, we actually have the incident report. So there you go. So this is the incident report. I was zooming in. So this is the incident report, and it says short description: have a mandatory reporter reporting issue. Want to speak with an officer about, and then it sort of cuts off. So apparently, some sort of mandatory reporter on May 16th said that they wanted to speak with an officer. And typically, what would happen would be there would be an investigation opened. Okay, we should be going live here.
Actually here for the hearing. Can you please disable your video if you are not a participant in any of the hearings this morning? Disable videos. Thank you.
No, I don't want that.
Nick looks like a sad little bitch right now.
Excuse me, sir. Can you please mute yourself?
Man.
There we go. Now I was able to modify myself. Let me see if I can make this window bigger. Doesn't look like he's oh no, he is. Okay. I was gonna say the door behind him made it look like he was in his home, but the concrete walls would indicate otherwise. The cinder block walls. Let me see if I can get a let's see, gallery view. I don't know if that's any better or not.
The court might change as they start picking people.
Yeah. He is definitely in jail attire.
So while we're waiting, as I stated on my stream earlier today, my only real concern is for Nick and for his kids and their a positive outcome here, and that's largely going to be up to Nick.
Yep. Let's see. Pin. Hang on a second. Oh, there we go. Let me rearrange my screen here. There we go. All right. Yeah, it is. It's definitely going to be up to how Nick handles this going forward. There's a game to play here. There's a system to play into at this point.
Kill niggers, behead niggers, roundhouse kick a nigger into the concrete.
You knew this was coming, people. But yeah, it depends on how Nick plays into the system. And he can definitely play it the right way. And he knows how to work this system. So
this particular, I mean, these criminal circumstances are frankly the least of my concerns. I mean, whatever, I think he'll have a reasonable outcome here unless he really screws that up. But I'm thinking about the rest of his life.
Well, that's true. He again, this is an opportunity for him. We've seen him on the streams. There's been rumors of drug problems. It seem to be somewhat more credible now, right? And so this is an opportunity for him to. When I say play the system, you're not playing the system. You're taking advantage of the system, right? If you use this as an opportunity to get clean, he can come. This could be one of the greatest comeback stories. You know,
it should be
out there.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to go on the record. Before we do, a couple rules this morning, giving the amount of observers. First, you are to turn off your device so you are muted and turn off your video camera. Second of all, there have been requests to record this proceeding. Those requests are denied. The rules, general rules of practice prohibit any recording other than the official record of the judicial branch, which is recorded by a certified court reporter. I imagine that transcripts can be available. That's under General Rule of Practice 42 or 4.02, Subdivision 5 at Prin 5. I need to tell everyone that a violation of that rule would lead, could lead to contempt proceedings. We are on the record in 34 CR 24.
For the record, I have an email.
3.1, and Madam Clerk, if you can disable that, the buzzing or bell noise each time someone joins us, court would appreciate that. This is the state of Minnesota versus Nicholas Robert Rekieta. Am I saying that correctly? You've told me before.
Yes, sir, Rekieta.
I have your date of birth is December 16, 1981.
Yes, sir.
Currently reside at 12291. Okay. Your appearance today is based on 3 counts to a complaint order for detention. The record should reflect that Alex Kornahachi appears for the state of Minnesota. Mr. Rekieta, you are self-representing yourself at this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Count 1 is second-degree possession, 25 grams or more of cocaine or methamphetamine. This is in violation of Minnesota Statute 152.022, Subdivision 2, Prin A, Prin 1. The maximum sentence for that count is 25 years in prison and/or a $500,000 fine. Count 2 is possession of ammunition or any firearm with the user of controlled substances. This is a gross misdemeanor, so the maximum sentence is 364 days in the Kansas County Jail and/or a $3,000 fine. Count 3, endangerment of a child when present with a sale or possession of a controlled substance. Again, a gross misdemeanor. Maximum.
Do all your coke out, Nick, and kill yourself, you stupid motherfucker.
I'm going to warn everyone again, this is a court proceeding. If you were in a courtroom with me, the judge would remove you. So any
Judge,
violation of that will be removed. Ms. Block?
Judge, I just disabled people the ability to unmute themselves, so I will work to unmute people as they need to speak to the court this morning.
All right, thank you. Aside from Mr. Rekieta and Mr. Kornahachi, no one needs to at this point. Lastly, I think I was saying that the count 3 gross misdemeanor has a maximum sentence of 364 days and/or a $3,000 fine. Mr. Rekieta, you understand what you've been charged with, and second question, the maximum sentences associated with each count?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Now, I don't mean to insult your intelligence, given you are an attorney, but it's important that I know that you understand your rights here. First of all, you are presumed to be not guilty of these charges. It is the state, not you, that has to prove what has been alleged in the complaint with evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. You have a right to trial by jury. All members of the jury would have to agree that the state had met its burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt before you could be convicted. You have a right to counsel. You have a right to represent yourself, of course. If there's a trial, you could give your side of the story and testify, but you also have the right to remain silent. Indeed, you don't have to prove anything, so you don't have to say anything. If you remain silent, the judge can't make a comment about that. The prosecutor can't make a comment about that, nor can the jury take that into consideration. You have a right to confront, challenge, or cross-examine anyone who testifies against your interest. You have a right to call witnesses and the power of subpoena. You have a right to all of the state's discovery before trial, and including exculpatory information and evidence. And at the end of the day, if you think the court made some mistakes or a jury made some mistakes, you have a right to appeal. Any questions about those rights as I've explained them?
No, Your Honor.
This is a Rule 5 hearing. Sometimes we call it a bail hearing. We'll set this for a Rule 8 hearing Under the rules, you have right to have that hearing within 14 days of today's hearing, but you could waive that as well, given your right to seek counsel if you so choose. Do you want this scheduled within 14 days, Rule 8?
No, Your Honor, I'd like to waive that. We can combine it into a contested omnibus hearing. That would work.
All right, so we could, for today's purposes, combine Rule 5, Rule 8?
Yes, sir.
All right. And before you ask for a speedy, you want to hear what the state is requesting as far as release conditions?
Yes, I'd like to hear what the state is requesting.
I didn't say it, but you also have the right to have me read the complaint today.
No, I'll waive that right, sir.
All right, very well. Mr. Kornhachi, what is the state requesting as far as release conditions?
Yes, Your Honor. The state is requesting $50,000 unconditional. In the alternative, we would agree to RPR with standard drug conditions, which would include no use, random testing, no use and possession of firearms, contact probation as directed, don't leave the state without permission from the court, remain law-abiding, keep in contact with probation, and other standard conditions.
Mr. Rekieta, any objection to those conditions?
I object to the $50,000 bail. I think it's unduly burdensome and in violation of the 8th Amendment.
All right, what about the conditions?
Release conditions sound fine.
All right, the court will set unconditionally amount of $50,000, cash or bond. Conditionally, you'll be released on your own personal recognizance. In all instances, you need to be law-abiding and show up for all your court appearances. Conditions are as follows: abstain from the use of alcohol or any mood-altering chemicals not prescribed by your physician. That will be subject to random testing. So the court will order that you meet with probation upon your release, sign their agreement, and cooperate fully. You're not to possess any weapons, firearms of any nature, or be in the presence of anyone with a firearm or dangerous weapon, and do not leave the state of Minnesota without prior approval of the court. Any questions about those release conditions?
Yes, Your Honor. Did you say 50 or 15,000?
50,000. 50.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, let me ask this. Do you still want a speedy omnibus, or can it be scheduled in normal course?
You rescheduled in normal course, Your Honor.
Very well. Madam Clerk, do we have a date for that?
I'm sorry, Judge, I'm just going to interrupt. This is Katie Block, the court administrator. Do you want this next hearing to be in person or remote?
In person.
Thank you for the clarification.
Mr. Rekieta, you said contested, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so yes, in person.
And I'm sorry, Your Honor, just to clarify, timelines are waived?
Yes.
And Madam Clerk, just so the court is aware, Kristen Pierce is handling this case going forward.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So while we're waiting for the date, $50,000 bond, cash or surety, which means he can
And the
pay.
matter has been assigned with Judge Fisher. I'm looking at Tuesday, August 20th at 2:45.
Good for the state.
Judge
Without
Fisher,
having a calendar, it sounds great.
Very well. Any other business we can conduct?
Now,
Yes,
on behalf of this,
Oh.
apologies. Go ahead.
Your Honor, I have requested to see two of my clients and have been forbidden from doing so. I would like to see them before their arraignment.
he's going to represent his
I'm not
wife.
understanding your request. Can you repeat it?
As two of my clients are set for arraignment today, I have requested to see them. They have both requested to speak to their attorney, who is me, and they have been prevented from doing so up to this point. I was wondering if we could get an order to allow me to at least speak to my clients before they come into their first appearance.
Cornahachi?
Your Honor, I'm not sure if the court is aware. April Multi has been released,
Okay.
and then I believe the other person who's referring to is his wife Kayla. Is it Rekieta? Rekieta. I'll leave it to the court's discretion. They are charged as co-defendants. I believe she would have to waive any conflict, etc. But I don't take a position.
And to be frank, I don't know if that's a waivable conflict at this point, given they are co-defendants. But there's no request from the state that obviously they are married, so there's no request that they be separated. True?
Correct.
Well, it's an issue of denying counsel to Ms. Rekieta, so I will grant the request and leave that as an issue for Judge Fisher. At least to get us through the arraignment this morning.
Thank you, Your
Mr.
Honor.
Jailer, are you able to make accommodations? Mr. Rekieta, how much time do you need?
Not long, just about 15 minutes, Your Honor.
Can the jail accommodate that?
That'd be up to the jail administrator, Your Honor.
I'm sorry?
I would have to talk with the jail administrator.
All right. If they have any difficulties with that, the jail administrator, since I'll be in these proceedings, should contact Chief Judge Beckman.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right. Since Ms. Rekieta is not available, at least for the next 15 minutes, do we want to take the next matter?
Fine with the state, Your Honor.
Do we want to interpret the case next?
Which case?
The interpreter case?
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, so we're gonna pull down the screen. They're gonna handle some other cases. I'll leave it going and see if Nick's wife, if her arraignment goes for a bit. Hopefully, you guys can't hear all the dinging and stuff. I'll still hear it. But he's got $50,000 cash or surety bond, which typically would be he can go to a bonding agent and pay about 10%, and then they'll post the rest of it, and he'll get out. And so long as he appears, there won't be any issue. Otherwise, I think Dog is going to come after him. Bronca, thoughts on Nick representing his co-defendant?
Well, that's what I would want to do if I were him. He wants a chance to talk to his wife before she goes in for arraignment. He also wanted to talk to this April person, obviously. It's an odd circumstance. She's already released, which is a little alarming, frankly.
Yeah, that the third is already released. Yeah.
Because that suggests maybe she's being cooperative to the detriment of Nick and his wife. Who knows? There's speculation on my part, but that would be consistent with her just being kicked loose. Clearly, Nick and his wife are not being kicked loose. I was a little confused about the conditions for release. It almost sounded like in the alternative to me, like $50K with no conditions or own recognizance with the conditions.
Yeah, I was too. I'm not familiar with the phrasing of the 50,000 unconditional. I don't really know what that means out of Minnesota because we don't really have that terminology here. It would be 50,000 cash or surety, or 10% is a third option in Michigan, which sounds like it's not happening here. But then
then the judge goes RPR with a whole series of conditions, but RPR is normally released personal recognizance.
Yeah, which would be like an additional promise to appear.
Well,
normally,
would it be additional or alternative?
Yeah, I don't know. Oh my God, the judge is so loud in my ear. I don't want to log out though.
I mean, it doesn't really matter if Nick needs to come up with $5,000. I'm sure he can do that.
Yeah, he's just going to have to get a hold of somebody. The interesting thing though is representing a co-defendant in a case, because first of all, co-defendants, like we saw in James and Jennifer Crumbly, there could be a lot of conflicts in there. And one of the big issues with them is that they were represented by the same law firm, even though they were different attorneys. And not everyone's case is perfectly aligned. So there could be a conflict. And now we have the attorney who's also a co-defendant. I don't know if that would be allowed in Michigan. Like the judge said, I don't know if that's a waivable conflict. It's very odd. I've never really heard of that. I'd have to do some digging.
I don't see how they can't be in conflict, right? I mean, if either of them had independent defense counsel, one of the arguments defense counsel would want to be able to make is that stuff's not mine. It belongs to the other person.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, this is going to be really annoying because now, so this other case, I'll just show it to you real quick. I'm not going to, but he needs an interpreter. And so there's like 5 people talking to my ear right now. But what's else is interesting is you saw the arrest was on count 1 and count 2. We knew that. Although it looks like
the charge has changed. It's changed.
The charge has changed.
It's no longer
count 1
fifth
is now
degree,
25
it's second
years.
degree. Yep.
Yeah.
So what happened there probably is, they walk in, they find some stuff. They charge on what they think is, well, at the very least, we have this, and count 5 would have been more than a quarter gram, and it's a quarter gram is nothing, folks. It's, if there's anything there, it's almost certainly more than a quarter gram. So they say we know for sure we have over a quarter gram, so let's make the initial charge on 5th degree possession, and then when they get the stuff back to the police station and they weigh it, they get a weight, and they say, well, the weight's sufficient to qualify as 2nd degree, which obviously is substantially more serious charge, from a 5 max to a 25 max.
Yeah, and then they added the count 3 for child endangerment, which I assumed was coming if this stemmed from an issue with the children being around. Kind of saw that coming. So the child endangerment, however, it's a gross misdemeanor, which means that the children, presumably the children weren't injured in any way. They were just around it while that was going on.
And that's partly to facilitate all the CPS stuff they want to do, right? So any CPS hearings, they can now say, well, there's a charge of child endangerment here.
Right, exactly. So he said 10 or 15 minutes. This is for everyone who's coming in late. Nick's arraignment just took place. He was issued $50,000 bond with, of course, we saw coming, no guns, no drug use, no further criminal charges, testing, random drug testing. And then I don't know what this other proceeding is. They said they rolled it into, I don't know if it's a preliminary examination. I'll have to do a little bit of digging into Minnesota law, but August 20th, hopefully I'll be able to bring something live as well regarding this. What I have a question for the chat is Judge Fisher the judge that's been handling Nick's other case, the civil case? And is that the one that apparently Nick doesn't like? Is that the same judge? Yes. Everyone's saying yes. Okay.
Oh, is that right?
That's going to be interesting.
So the same judge would be handling a civil case and this criminal case?
Yeah, the civil case with Monograph. Yeah.
Huh.
So
is that common where you
I've listened to her cover it, or I've listened to her proceedings on that case, and I thought she was reasonable. Now, Nick might not like her opinion at the end of the day, but I thought she was a reasonable judge approaching the case reasonably. And so maybe it won't be such a bad thing, although he has said some things about her. So maybe he could get her removed, get a different judge on the felony case.
It looks like the Rule 8 hearing they're referring to is what's normally part of the arraignment, but it's where the defendant would plead guilty or not guilty, be advised of right to counsel, and that kind of stuff.
What was the Rule 5? Because they mentioned Rule 5 and Rule 8 were going to be combined.
I think Rule 5 is just being notified of the charge. I don't know why they would break it out like that. Initial appearance. Let's see.
Yeah.
Get an interpreter if you need one. Let's see.
Kurt, I see it in the chat. I'll send you a link if you want to jump on.
Oh, it looks like under Rule 5, you can plead guilty to a gross misdemeanor, but the Rule 8 hearing may be required for a felony.
So is there a right to a preliminary exam?
there's like 10,000 words of text here. That I mean, let me take a look for. I'll do a quick search for preliminary. It doesn't say it under.
See, in
Rule
law school,
5.
they teach you how to look for the law, and not necessarily what the law is. This is what we're doing here.
Right. It doesn't mention preliminary under Rule 5 or Rule 8. Maybe they're using some different language, but a word search doesn't pull up.
Kurt, I sent you. It's possible that he's only going to be her attorney for the arraignment. Yes, I would imagine that's probably the likely scenario. That he's going to be allowed to appear for the arraignment, and then afterwards, Judge Fisher's probably going to say, "I feel like there's a conflict here. You're going to have to get other counsel." No, the stream is not monetized because I'm not monetized yet. Not on this channel. Yeah, I guarantee that's what he's doing. Well, as a good attorney would, right?
Yep, that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
I would expect. Because you never know what's going to come out of people's mouths.
Let's go. In Minnesota, possession of a firearm, legal or otherwise, lowers the limit of second degree. Huh. Interesting.
I got to be honest. I think it hardly matters. I mean,
yeah,
20. Oh no, this says 25 grams. I thought it was 0.25 grams.
I
25
wrote down,
grams is quite a lot.
I wrote down 25 grams. That's what I wrote down.
Oh, that's quite a lot. So I misread.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, it's the amount that maybe it would be considered even like possession with intent to distribute.
Yeah, 25 is a lot.
How much is 25 grams?
So
Kurt?
just recreation, just from my Andrew Branca's long ago history, many decades ago, folks. I mean, just going out for a Friday night, if you were a recreational cocaine user, you'd bring at least the standard would be a gram. And that would be expected to get you through the evening. So 25 grams would be a lot. It'd be 25 days worth of cocaine, basically.
Didn't he say cocaine or meth?
I don't know exactly what drugs are involved, but I'm just saying my own experiences around other people who were perhaps using cocaine.
Yeah, it was an alternative. It was like cocaine or meth. What's in? Yeah, it's Johnny Depp jar levels of 25 grams. 30 grams is an ounce. Okay.
Well, it was at least 25 grams, right? Because it's within some sort of ban threshold, right? So
Right.
It could be a little bit. It could be more than that, as long as it's at least 25 grams. So an ounce sounds plausible.
Kurt, what are your thoughts on Nick representing as a co-defendant representing his wife?
Well, I share the judge's concerns on the potential conflicts of interest. I think it's fine for the purposes of arraignment, which makes sense. So he gets to be her attorney for the next 15 minutes to give her like just the basic advice. Seems okay to me. But yeah, there's a potential conflict of interest because they're both implicated in the same crimes and they might have defenses that are adverse to each other. So that's potentially problematic.
I don't see how they wouldn't.
Let's see. Nick wasn't selling drugs. Well, he's not being charged with distribution or selling or attempted to sell. He's being charged with possession. So I don't think they're making the allegation that he was attempting to sell or was selling it. If you go further down on the statute, there's the usage part of the possession. Uncivil thoughts on April being released?
I have no particular thoughts because I don't have enough information to understand the situation. So I can't adjudicate sort of in my head whether that's a fair or some sort of unfair disposition relative to them. I don't know.
When police arrest suspects, they then take it to the prosecutor's office, and the prosecutor is the one who decides whether or not to issue charges. So the police arrest 3, and they bring all 3 incident reports to the prosecutor, and the prosecutor says, well, we have enough on these 2 people, but we don't have enough on this 3rd person, so we're going to let it go. That's very typical. Or it could even be, the one person being arrested. The prosecutor says, it's not enough. Good try, but I'm not going to bring the charges. So, so she's released. But just because she's released and not charged now doesn't mean she can't be charged later as well.
Also, what exactly does released mean? It's in terms of whether she was put on some sort of bond, bail, or other circumstance. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, that's true as well. Like oftentimes in Michigan for a DUI, you don't have to go through the arraignment. They'll just keep you for a little bit, they'll release you, and then you get a citation in the mail that says show up, you're being charged. So it could be something like that. Who knows?
Also, can I just comment on how absolutely insane it was that some person apparently decided it was a good idea to call into a live court proceeding and basically asked Nick to self-harm? I was like, holy shit.
There's a case, there's a woman, an elderly woman that ran into a clubhouse and killed 3 children and like a mom last month. And she was arraigned via Zoom. And everybody, like the family, they were doing like a family birthday party. And so like everyone that was in attendance and then other family members were all in on Zoom, and they were all yelling at the defense attorney as he was addressing bond, and the judge wasn't shutting it down. And the defense attorney started then arguing back with the people on Zoom. It was the most insane thing I've ever seen. That was a local case here. I'd never seen that before. I imagine there would be some people shouting out because it's Rekieta, right? But
yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really anticipate it, but once it started, I was like, oh, of course this is happening. It's Rekieta. But who has the nerve to do that, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, as the judge pointed out, it's a court proceeding, so strictly technically speaking, it's standing up in open court and like just shouting. I was like, that's direct contempt. So yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, exactly. What city am I in? Well, I practice in Wayne and Oakland County primarily. The case I was referring to is in Monroe County, which is just south of me. But I'm in Ann Arbor, U of M. Woo! Go green. But that's my area. Oh, good logic. All right, sir. Let me send you a message as well. Joe from Good Logic.
But I will also echo comments that Andrew made on an earlier video that Nick, to me personally, has been gracious and kind. I've known him for years. I've actually been to his house before and stayed with him and his family for a couple of days on one occasion. And I've known him for a couple of years. Ever since the Vic Mañana stuff, where we first got introduced. And so I've known him for quite a few years at this point. He's always been kind and gracious to me. So that's what I know for now. And all the judge told me was he's being charged with possession, but I don't know the circumstances of that. I don't know what evidence there is available for that or what defenses are available for that. I don't know his role in that. So, until I'm going to rely basically on what I know. And what I know is that he's been good to me. So I'm going with that for the moment.
Drex, if you want on, you got to hit me up on Twitter because I don't have your contact info. But Joe, you've got a link. And like I said at the beginning of the stream too, I was introduced to Nick through Viva Fry, and I didn't know that existed. And since I've been streaming, I've been on his channel a couple of times. He's always been very nice, very, very courteous, supportive, and things like that. Everyone has their demons though, right? And hopefully this will, there's been rumors about drug use. This is kind of going towards the confirmation that maybe there was drug use. And hopefully, if anything, this is the beginning of a great recovery story for him, right? A comeback story. So if there has been drug use, and it appears like there might have been, then he needs the help, and hopefully, the system can help him a little bit. We're still waiting, by the way, just so we know, we have another arraignment. So I'm waiting for Mrs. Rackets to get on, and then we'll pull that back up again.
Yeah.
Rumors. Well, again, I'm not following him, right? I don't sit in on all of his live streams, so I'm just hearing things that are sort of like after the fact and on the side. But he's always been great to me, and he does good with YouTube, and hopefully he can get past this. Like I said, everyone out there, everyone listening right now, you have your demons. You know what you're about. You know the dark side, and hopefully you never have to experience it going public in a court proceeding because you were charged with something. But you all have them, and you all know what they are, and hopefully you can manage them without the need of the court system. But sometimes that's what the system is here for. And again, the drug courts now are very much geared towards sort of mental health and getting the people the help that they need.
Yeah, and I'm assuming, although I don't know, but I would assume that Nick doesn't have any record. And so I would therefore assume that there's a possibility of some sort of diversion or deferment or other program that he might be eligible for. So assuming that that's available and he wants to go that way, that might provide him some sort of out. So I would, we'll see how it goes, I suppose.
Yeah. And again, I'll say my prediction again. What I predict is well, I don't know about with the child endangerment. The firearm charge is going to be dismissed with forfeiture of the firearms. He'll plead guilty to some sort of substance abuse, and it'll go on a deferment treatment program. And with the child endangerment, he's probably going to, family counseling, therapy, but he'll be placed on probation for those two things, and the guns will be dismissed with a forfeiture of the firearms. That's my prediction.
So the initial charge, the 5th degree possession, was 0.25 gram is the threshold for 5th degree. So 0.25 is nothing, folks.
0.25 grams?
Yeah, 0.25.
That's a quarter of a paperclip.
For 5th degree. So basically, it's like a trace, almost a trace amount.
Yeah.
But the new charge, the 2nd degree, is the 25 gram, and that's a sizable amount of cocaine. That's
what's that statute?
That's like 7-8 balls of cocaine. That's a lot, or whatever the drug is. I don't know if they've actually specified the drug, but
that is.
So what often happens is the cops come in, they see some drug, they don't bother weighing it on scene, but you can obviously tell if it's more than a quarter of a gram. And so they charge that. That's the minimal charge. They slap that on. And then when they get it back to the police station, they bring it into the lab, they actually weigh it. And depending on the actual weight, then they'll come up with a more concrete charge is what I would guess happened here.
Total weight of... Wait, so I'm confused now because if I pull this up, this is 2nd degree.
Yeah, but he was initially... the initial charge was 5th degree.
Right.
So this 2nd degree is an escalation we're only hearing today in this arraignment. Yesterday, so, what he was booked on was 5th degree, which is 0.25.
Right. I'm just trying to find the right statute because...
Well, 5th degree is 152.025.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that. And
second degree is 022.
022. Okay. So let me go back. But
I thought it said 3 grams in 5th degree. Did I misread it?
There we go. Okay, so this is 2nd degree. But this says 50 grams. That's why I'm confused.
Oh, it might be because of the firearms thing. Maybe that lowers the threshold somewhere else in a different statute.
Oh, that's right. Someone in chat said that. You're right. Yep. Because it was possession of firearms at the same time, it lowers it.
What are you looking at there? 022? And that's
this is 022
crimes?
Yep, and this is 2nd degree, and it says 50 grams.
All right, I'm looking
but
at
I think
Lexus.
Somebody in the chat said that in Minnesota, because there was a possession of the firearm at the same time, it lowers the amount apparently down to 25 grams.
Can you scroll down to the bottom of the history there? See more of the history? I think you're looking at an outdated version of that statute. I'm looking at Lexus. This was updated August 2023.
Yeah, that is the 2010 version, so that's fair.
And they've reduced the quantity from 50 to 25 gram.
Well, I'm going to the state's website. Why does the state website have out of date statutes? Oh my God. Come on, state, get your...
Yeah, so
I go to the state assuming that the statutes are up to date. Here we go. All right, now we got it. All right, here we go.
2023, that's more promising.
Yeah, right. This is
Yeah.
state's
So when you get
website.
down to the
2020.
possession section, paragraph
Yeah, here we go.
A1 is 25 grams
There
instead
we
of
go.
50
25
grams.
grams. Wow, they lowered it. Right.
But the gun aggravating factor is for brandishing, displaying, threatening, or otherwise employing. I don't think that's what happened here. I think he just had guns in the house, which
That's
would not
most
seem
likely
to
what he had.
apply.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
confused. Oh no, never mind. I was confused by the difference between 1 and 2. It's just that 2 has other stuff too. Never mind. Pass. Carry on.
No, well, I wasn't doing anything. I was just looking to see if Mrs. Rackets was coming up because they're done with the last one.
Yeah, so I don't think the gun aggravating factor here will be relevant because I very much doubt that Nick was brandishing a gun in some kind of threatening way.
Are
That
you
doesn't
allowed
look
to
like
like?
Mrs. Rackets.
Are you allowed to stream this under the court's orders?
You can't record it, the judge said, but he didn't say you couldn't.
I got
stream
an
it.
email. I submitted a notice of media coverage,
Okay.
and I got an email back that says I can attend via remote Zoom hearing and gave me all the information.
Okay.
So,
Fair enough.
I'm going with
Just
that.
double checking.
Yeah.
Looking out for you, bro.
Gosney wants a link.
Yeah, okay. He texted me too to get your attention.
I got a lot of windows up. I'm just happy that I don't have. The other thing is that while you guys can't hear this because I haven't muted, they're all chirping in my ear, and so I'm. There we go. Hey, Steve, welcome.
Good to see you, Steve.
Hey, man. How's everybody going? Kurt, Andrew.
I'm doing good. Doing better than Nick is. $50,000 bond set, which seems
That's a
high to
lot.
me, but
It does seem like
it's
a lot.
25 grams. I don't.
Well,
No, is it
and I might
appropriate for 25?
I might be able to add a little bit of insight. I'm not a Minnesota lawyer, obviously, but I do criminal stuff, and the amount is very concerning. I will say it puts it in a much more dangerous zone than, and we don't know the amounts. And Kurt got it right about the range. So what it is you get a threshold general possession amount between, say, like 0.1 or whatever to 10 grams or something like that. I'm just making up numbers, but you'll get a range. And so that'll be 1 degree of felony. And then the next range of felony is, say, 10 to 50. And then the next range is 50 to 150. And the levels ratchet up as you move up that weight chart. And
MLS, would you be so kind as to look up 1st degree so we can figure out what the threshold is there so we understand the band?
Absolutely.
Right. So we're somewhere between 25 grams and above. And I think Andrew pointed out that what would happen is they would seize the possession, they'd seize the drugs, they would charge it as a certain level. When they go back and weigh it, they'd weigh it and it would give a more precise number.
50.
So it's 50.
So somewhere between 25 and 50.
Now, I will also add there's another little technique, and this is Florida law, and I'm not a Minnesota lawyer, but there comes an amount at which a threshold amount at which you reach that becomes entitled to trafficking. All right. And boy, I'll tell you, we have endless problems in Florida explaining to our clients. They say, I wasn't selling, I was using, I'm just a user, I wasn't selling, but it gets grouped into a trafficking amount because the amount gets so great. So I'm not certain what the minimum mandatories can kick in at certain levels. So there's big red flags that jump up, because to me, going from a 1st degree, well, in Florida, we would call it a 3rd degree felony, a 5-year min-man to a 25-year min-man, or 25 possible, that to me brings up the bottom. So it might be kind of a mandatory prison type charge. And like Andrew was saying, possession charges are pretty hard to fight. And when that amount is what it is, it gives the prosecutor a lot more leverage over the defendant. Now, the fact that if I assume there's no prior record here, that is a big helpful factor. I still think that your prediction, MLS, is good, but that extra amount is very dangerous for a client, for a defendant.
Now, take this for what it is, but this says up to 25 years in prison, up to $500,000 fine. Previous drug crime convictions and aggravated factors can also result in lengthier sentence, including 3-year mandatory minimum for previous drug felonies. So assuming he doesn't have a previous, it looks like there might not be a mandatory minimum at this level. This is 2nd degree.
Right. Let's read that real quick. Okay, so it's cocaine, methamphetamine 25 grams.
Sorry, I'm trying to screw in. Or
25, 10 grams with use of firearm with aggravating factors. Now, use of firearm, and there's a lot of questions about the firearm. This is a very odd statute when I read it. There's no Florida analog.
But it requires brandishing, displaying the gun in a threatening manner. I find it hard to believe that Nick did that. I expect what happened was they just found guns in the house, like they found drugs in the house.
Right, but the way it's we don't have something similar in Florida. Are you familiar with this? Where if you're doing drugs and there's guns in the house possession, that's somehow an enhancement or an effect. We don't have.
It's an enhancement in Michigan for sure. So I always tell people who are legally carrying marijuana even to be careful with the firearms, because under federal law, it's still, if the state wants to enforce a federal law with the possession and you're in possession of the gun, they could in theory charge you with violating a federal law while in possession of a gun, even under state law. So I always tell people to be careful.
The way the statute reads here, it's more than brandishing. It's broader than that. So it literally reads, the person possesses on their person or within immediate reach or uses, whether by brandishing, displaying in a threatening manner, a firearm. So, if you conceal carry, you got it on your belt and they catch you with the drugs, you got it on your person, right? If it's on the table next to you, it's within immediate reach. Or you're being very stupid and you're actually brandishing the firearm in a threatening way, then it would qualify.
Notice how in this statute, by the way, this is the 2023 version. It says semi-automatic military style assault weapon.
Oh my God!
Whatever that means.
With Minnesota. Can I also emphasize something I heard Kurt saying when he first came on, and that is and then kind of add a little bit more personal, and that is that all my interactions have been very positive with the guy. He's been, he's helped me in a lot of ways. He's been very fun to be around, and I haven't seen anything. I haven't spent time at his house, but I went to dinner with him here in Tampa. We were in Miami. We were in Vegas. I mean, all my interactions have been positive. But, and I think Andrew said on his stream, which was excellent also about addressing this, is that, we aren't defined by the worst of when we show our faces at our worst or our best, right? We're kind of a mix of those things. And we all have our bad moments and we have our good moments, right? So obviously this is a big bad moment and it's public, but we all have demons and weaknesses and it's within us. And of course, and I addressed this on MG Law last night a little bit, that AA is based on faith. And these type of weaknesses that we all have within us, the only solution, the only thing that actually can help people out and defeat something that is bigger than you as an individual is faith. And even it doesn't necessarily need to be Christian faith, although that would be my advocated thing. I have a friend who's an atheist who went through AA and was able to craft a faith that allowed him to pull it up. But what it requires is a certain humility, a certain recognition that we as individuals are much weaker and much more flawed and we need something greater than us to pull us out. And the really scary thing, the thing that frightens me to death, because we went to dinner with Nick and his wife and it was pleasant and wonderful. I loved his wife, but the fact that the wife is tied up in this is a very, very bad portent. And that scares the hell out of me, because you want a support system around you that is anti the drug, right? Anti whatever the challenge. But if you have a dancing partner who's reinforcing, that can be very dangerous. So that fact concerns me greatly. But I will say the way out is through faith. That's the way you need to humble yourself before God. So anyways, cheers to you guys.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, everyone has that dark side. You all have your bad acts that probably nobody knows about. But
maybe they do.
Hope it doesn't come out in public, because this could be you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still just waiting. We're still up on other arraignments, so we're just waiting for Mrs. Rackets to finish consulting with her attorney, Nick. Steve, what are your thoughts on that? So Nick says he's representing his wife and their co-defendants. What are your thoughts on a conflict here?
Boy, I've got, well, I can see why co-defendants would want to talk outside the presence of a
In a privileged way too.
in a
No one can
privileged
listen.
way.
It's great.
Yes. So so that's my first thought. And the fact that I really think it's a bad sign that this third person has been released, that indicates to me cooperation.
Yep.
Law enforcement. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I can't imagine that. I think that he is using that to, and I'm just being honest. I don't know this, but he's using that in ability to communicate with his wife to get their stories straightened out before they bring in somebody. So they want to have a heart to heart and talk and get.
Well, I think it's clever. It's definitely clever. I don't know that it would be allowed to continue beyond this arraignment for sure, but it's definitely clever of him. I don't know if I would have thought of that. Like, oh, I'm going to represent my co-defendant, so let me go talk to her.
Right.
I was a little bit surprised, maybe just personally, that he like waived his rights under various, like even for like reading of the charges. I mean, if it were me, I'd be so spiteful. I'm like, yeah, I don't care if it's a formality. We're doing it. We're doing this the hard way. You can read the charges. We're going to have the full hearing. I want everything. Give it all.
No, there's no benefit to having the charges.
He waived his speedy preliminary, I guess, speedy rule 8 requirement too, which I get that. A lot of times we waive that.
That's just you want to see the discovery. He'll post the bond. He'll be out. He'll have conditions. Like I said,
I think most of that was before he heard what the state was asking for release, right? So maybe he's not trying to poke the bear before he hears what they're going to put on the table in terms of him getting out.
Yeah, I agree. He knew people were watching, and that's probably why he waived it.
Fair point.
Even despite the spite.
Yeah, but the reading of the charges is nothing. I mean, all you do is you just read the information or the police report, the probable cause affidavit, which is already going to be public. So it's not like you aren't giving up anything. It's really a very much a formality. It's just almost a courtesy. You know, it annoys the judge if you ask for it to be read. So I'm
annoyed. I'm annoyed by being here. That's what I'm saying. We can all be annoyed.
We can all be annoyed, right?
I'm gonna step away for a second. Andrew, there's a latecomer that had a question about him losing his license. If you wanted to go over that again.
I mean, I don't know how they do it in Minnesota. In Massachusetts, he would not permanently lose his license over something like this. Drug and alcohol problems are the most common things we see in the law profession. It's unbelievably common. He may get his license suspended, but assuming he can clean himself up, I would expect him to get his law license back. The only guaranteed way to lose your law license permanently that I've seen is to screw around with client money. If you do that, it goes away.
Although there is a level, I mean, you're right. Lawyers are exceptionally vulnerable to drugs, alcohol, depression, all sorts of wonderful sins.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be very conscious of that as a lawyer to be aware of that. But because of that, the bars are generally quite favorable. But like I say, stealing money from your clients, that'll get you disbarred immediately. I mean, like, boom, right? But this drug and alcohol, I have a friend who had alcohol problems and got a DUI. They put him on a probationary type thing. Then he got another DUI while on the probation, and he got a suspension for like 20, 30 days, something like that. So, it does take a lot. Now, it depends on the severity of the charges. We're looking at this, and that could change. But and I don't know Minnesota, obviously, but usually the bars are pretty understanding of lawyers because we are number one in drug and alcohol use of all the professions, for better or worse. So they actually, a lot of them have special programs set up for lawyers.
Well, lawyers and doctors, but doctors get prescriptions.
Yes. Well, dentists are usually our competitors, but I think that the dentistry has progressed to the point that kids don't curse them to death when they're drilling. That there's like alternative dentistry techniques, so it's fallen on the rankings, and lawyers are back to one.
I tried to mute his address. I didn't quite get it, all of it, but
well, we gotta admit that.
Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Hopefully, when they start speaking, hopefully you can hear it. I think I unmuted it.
All right, we are on the
You guys
record
hear?
in
Okay.
court file 34 CR 24 342. It's the state of Minnesota versus Kayla Christine Rekieta. You are Ms. Rekieta?
Yes.
All right. We've had some trouble hearing everyone this morning, so if you could get a little closer to the microphone and speak a little louder. Your appearance today is based on a complaint order for detention with 3 counts. I have your date of birth is March 9.
Yes, sir.
All right. The record should also reflect that Alex Cornahachi appears for the state of Minnesota. Ms. Rekieta, your current address.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And
hopefully
you
that
also
got
get your
muted
mail
this
there?
time.
No, sir. We have a PO box.
All right. What is the P.O. box to ensure that you get your mail?
PO
Whoa,
box
whoa, whoa, whoa,
97.
whoa, whoa.
And
Sorry.
Mr. Rekieta lives there as well. He's also a co-defendant with you,
Yes, sir.
and he would get his mail there as well.
Yes, sir.
Count 1 is second degree possession of 25 grams or more of cocaine or methamphetamine. This has been charged out as a felony, so the maximum sentence is 25 years in prison and or a $500,000 fine. Offense date was May 23rd, 2024. Count 2 is possession of ammunition or a firearm by a user of a controlled substance in violation of Minnesota statute 624.713 at subdivision 1. This is a gross misdemeanor, so the maximum sentence is 364 days and or a $3,000 fine. And then lastly, count 3, neglect or endangerment of a child. Again, a gross misdemeanor, maximum sentence 364 days and or a $3,000 fine. First question is, do you understand what you've been charged with?
I understand, yes.
All right. And the maximum penalties associated with each offense or each count.
Yes, sir.
All right. When someone has been accused of an offense such as this, it's important that you understand your rights. Starting point is that you are presumed to be not guilty. You don't have to prove your innocence, rather the state has to prove your guilt, and they have to do so with evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. 2, you're entitled to counsel, legal counsel, and if you can't afford an attorney, the court would appoint one for you. 3, you're entitled to trial by jury if you so choose. If there's a trial, all members of the jury would have to agree that the state had met its burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt before you could be convicted. If there's a trial, you could give your side of the story if you wish, but you don't have to because you have a right to remain silent. Indeed, you don't have to prove anything, so you don't have to say anything. If you remain silent and don't testify, the judge and the prosecutor cannot make comments about that because it is your constitutional right, nor can the jury consider it. You have a right to confront, challenge, or cross-examine any witness who testifies against your interest. You have a right to call witnesses and the power of subpoena to force witnesses to come and testify on your behalf. You have a right to receive all of the state's evidence and information, including exculpatory information, before trial. And at the end of the day, if you think the judge or the jury made some mistakes, you have the right of appeal. Do you have any questions about those rights this morning?
No, I do not.
You have a right also to have me read the complaint to you. If you read it or you're able to read it, you can waive that right. Do you need for me to read it to you?
Not at this time, no.
Very well. Any objection to setting these hearings tracking your husband's case? Or would you want a separate hearing?
I think I would like this tracking his.
Very well. We will set those and track at the same time. You can change your mind if you'd like. This is sometimes called a bail hearing, and you would come back for an arraignment. We combine those hearings for Mr. Rekieta. Do you want to do the same thing? and then just set this for a contested omnibus? That's a yes?
Yes, please.
You're nodding, but you're yes?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Cornhachi, does the state have any release conditions?
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor. We would
Go ahead.
ask for the same conditions as Nicholas Rekieta, $50,000 unconditional, and the alternative RPR with standard conditions. If the court would like, I can repeat the conditions I had asked for.
You're going to have to. I threw it away. So
No problem. So that would be no use of controlled substances or alcohol, random testing, no use or possession of firearms, contact probation as directed, don't leave the state without permission, remain law-abiding, and other standard conditions.
Ms. Rekieta, any objection?
No.
Very well. Court will order unconditionally amount of $50,000 cash or bond. Conditionally, you'll be releasing your own personal recognizance. But in all instances, you have to remain law-abiding and show up for your court appearances, and we'll give you that date shortly. It'll also be noted on this release order. You are to abstain from the use of alcohol or any mood-altering chemicals not prescribed by your physician. That will be subject to random testing, so I'll have you report to probation, sign their agreement, and cooperate fully, which means keeping in contact with the pretrial probation agent. You are not to possess any firearms, ammunition, or dangerous weapons, and don't leave the state of Minnesota without prior approval of the court. Any questions about any of that?
No, sir. Understood.
Madam Clerk?
Your Honor, that is August 20th at 2:45.
All right. And
For the
that's all
state, thank
from the Candy. All right. Is that all from the Candiac County Jail?
That's all we have, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Candiac County Jail signing off.
Okay. So that is it. All right. So she got the same bond conditions. I'm still. Damn it.
Just
Hang on.
so that people know that the bond conditions generally in Florida, I always have to condition that.
There were people yelling. I'm sorry. I was trying to get it. No, they stopped. Okay, damn it.
Bond conditions generally it's 10%. The bond holders, so he'll put his house, like they'll sign their house. So 100,000 total, $10,000 cash, secured by a house, the additional. So, but you know, the likelihood, the idea of bond is to get them to fly. I will say that's pretty high bond. In Florida, that would, even for this type of level, that's a very high bond in my experience.
How much was the bond?
Well, 50,000 each, so it's
50, right?
$100,000
Yeah,
total.
right.
So it would be a $10,000 cash they'd have to out of pocket that they don't get back. Goes to the bondsman. The bond then covers the additional. The bondsman will require security, usually like a mortgage on property or house or something, and then the bondsman secures their appearance at future hearings. That's a very high bond, I will say, but again, it's local practice, a lot of it.
So that's what I'm confused. Okay, so they asked for 50,000, or on the alternative, a PR.
I heard that,
and the judge ordered. It sounds like the judge ordered
like
50,000.
they gave both.
Both.
Sounds
Sounds like they gave both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you post your 50,000 bond and you're out, then you're on your personal recognizances, and you have to, drug test and not use drugs, and promise to appear and all this stuff. So it sounds like they got both.
Here's the problem with this. Okay, I'll just say this has got to be a wake up call, because if you test positive for drugs while out on bond, the bond can be revoked, and then you sit in jail awaiting your waiting some deal.
And Nick knows this. Nick's been practicing long enough. I don't care if he's done criminal law or not. He knows this.
But that's why drugs are very powerful things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a setup. I will say these bond conditions are a setup. I mean, that's a public defender talking. I'll be a prosecutor soon enough.
When I always tell people is when you're,
though.
I understand.
Yeah,
I understand. I'm just saying it's a setup.
When you're on bond or probation, which is it's essentially, it could be the same terms and conditions, just one's before and after a plea or a trial. and you are alleged to have violated those, in Michigan, it's only preponderance of the evidence. So you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent. And that's how it kind of works in practice and in reality with these bond conditions. So he needs to toe the straight and narrow, and hopefully he does.
Well,
Hopefully he does.
the last time I was on his show, it was not this midnight show that he does, which I mean, I can't stay up that late, and it kills me when I'm there. So in the last show I went on, I was like the old Nick. I felt pretty, except for a couple things that I addressed in a Rumble, about an hour and a half long Rumble thing about some theological differences we had, which I felt compelled to respond to. You know, he was the host. I'm not going to abuse him on his own channel, or even, it takes me a while. I'm an appellate lawyer. It's like, you ask me a question, I'll get you an answer in 3 days. Right? It's like, but the daytime shows I thought were okay. The ones that I was on and was around, those night shows were a whole different bag. You know, I didn't get along, or I didn't really relate to a lot of those people that he was connected with there. But I didn't really watch it. It wasn't my thing, you know. I mean, Kurt, last time you were on, was that a night show? Was that a midnight show?
Yeah, it was. And the interaction, at least from my vantage point, was odd. And I've, over the course of, let's say, the last 6 months, you know, roughly, some of his behavior has seemed odd. So I don't know what's going on there, but, you know, it seemed like something might be wrong. I talked to him on the phone maybe 2 or 3 months ago and asked him about it, and he said he was fine. And so I didn't know what more to do.
Alcohol creates lies, and you know, like, yes, he's a good people person, and so he knows how to say what you want to hear. So whether or
There's
not,
a couple of questions in the chat here, and I wanted to address. I start them. So Rosamond Rance wants to know why only one charge for endangering a child. Is it how it works, even though they had 5 kids? Well, I don't know how it works in Minnesota is the underlying issue. It could be multiple charges. Reading over the statute, if there were multiple children, maybe only one was home. Maybe it's because of the age. I know there's some age. So it's child under 14 years of age. I don't know how old his kids are. Maybe all of them are older than 14, and so it doesn't apply. I honestly, I just don't know.
Yeah, there's so many moving parts, and we don't have details, and we don't know. Yeah. And a lot of times they'll just pile on charges because it's there. The prosecutor will sort them out. And usually it's a practicality thing from a prosecutor's side. Their objective, at least a good prosecutor's office, a good prosecutor's office will see this person has a drug problem, his family has this problem, and the objective is to create such a powerful weight over somebody's head that it will wake them up to reality, and they will quit cold turkey, and they'll get out of the system. Of course, prosecutors can also look at this as some game in which they've got a big, high-profile person. They can make a name, and all of a sudden, no deals are off, and we're asking for things. I mean, you don't know. This is the problem by get involved with the criminal justice system, is that you are putting your life in the hands of third parties who you don't know what their motivations are. Don't empower these people. Don't empower the courts. Same thing with civil courts. Stay away from the court system, because you're giving up freedom to third parties that you don't have any control over.
Right. Another question here was, does he have to test negative prior to being released from jail? No. And if he does test positive, the court will usually allow a grace period for it to get out of your system as well. So they would expect him to test. If they say, like, hey, you got to test as soon as you get out, they would expect it to, if they suspect him of using, to test positive or dirty for a couple of days, and then the levels to gradually get lower and then go away and never go up again. That's what the courts or the probation department is going to expect.
Hey guys, I'm going to sign out.
All right, take care.
Thanks for having
Andrew,
me on. I appreciate it.
For jumping in.
And let's hope things turn for the better.
Yeah, I'm going to put your link in the chat, by the way, just so everyone has it. If you guys don't know Law of Self-Defense, you guys got to go check out Andrew, his YouTube channel, and he's got a book, just like Gosney.
Steve has it. Thanks, Steve. All right, take care, guys. Have a good Memorial Day weekend.
All right, you too.
Yeah, it's the irony of grifting off of Nick's problems. I gotta say that this is a very strange thing.
Yeah, it is. And so I had invited Valhalla on, and he's like, I don't know if I want to come on. He's like, because it's Nick. And I said, I texted him. I said, what would Nick do? Like Nick.
Yeah,
would
well, this
Nick
is
would
what
stream
exactly. That's what I was thinking. I mean, in some ways, I think that there's the chief of tomfoolery that would be greatly entertained by the fact that he's the sub. But on the other hand, it's such a tragedy. I mean, this is just terrible. It's terrible for a human being that we respect and we've looked up to and we have interacted with and liked and had a lot of positive experiences and has given us a lot. So there's sort of this cross current of motivations. It's confusing and difficult. I don't know how you guys are feeling, but
my whole channel has always been geared towards trying to educate people and sort of making law simple was kind of the idea, right? So I'm bringing this not to dump on Nick or not to praise Nick, but this is someone that at least 4,000 of you guys are interested in, and I feel like it's important for us to look at all these cases that they come across, even when it's someone that we either love or hate, right? So that's how I feel. It's horrible, but it's not the end of Nick.
Well, it could be a rock bottom thing, and this is somebody. There's a point, and this is the danger. And I've doing criminal law. It's sad because it's like patterns. It's patterns of human behavior, patterns of human degradation and weakness. We are all flawed. We're all weak. We are all imperfect. There is something about you, everybody that's in this chat and everybody that's listening, there's something about you that if you were giving millions of dollars and unlimited freedom, that you would dwell down. If you didn't protect yourself and weren't conscious, you would dwell down and go all the way, right? Now, what happens is hopefully there is something, a bottom, that something is more important than a drug or whatever your vice is. And that thing will bounce. So it might be your family. It might be, I don't know what those things are, but there's something that, gee, this drug or this thing is not worth this. All right. Now, some people don't have that. Some people, the drug lies to them and it tells them, and it's the only thing that matters. And I'll tell you, cocaine is the most dangerous of all, because I've seen, oh my God, what kind of destruction and murders occurring because of that. It's like how far you can go. If there's no floor, it's up to the individual, but that's why you need faith. You need to have something higher. That's the only way out, because it's the only thing that brings you above that, or stay away from just cold turkey. No more. Stop. Change your life, right? But what takes that? We create ourselves by habit. And if you're habitually doing something, that becomes you. What force is out there that can change who you are in such a fundamental way, especially when all your own brain is lying to you?
All right,
Jen has a question for you, Kurt.
Oh, I'll answer this, I suppose. Does he have income sources other than streaming? Well, I know he had a Rumble deal for a while, and I think he recently re-signed that. I don't know if he has income streams beyond that. But then again, he's done well for himself, so he might have cash on hand.
He might. He might. Well, he's going to need at least 10,000. So hopefully he has at least that.
All right, I'm going to sign up for now.
All right. By the way, I put a link to your channel in the description, so anyone can go check out Uncivil Law if you guys don't know Uncivil.
Nick, if you ever see this, I just want to let you know, at least I'm rooting for you, and I hope that whatever happens, that you and your family will be well. And if I can be an ear to you at all, you know where to find me. So I'm pulling for you, buddy. Hope it works out.
All right. Take care, Kurt. Thanks for being here. And will Nick lose his license to practice? Probably not, if it not permanently. Most bar associations are used to dealing with attorneys with drug problems and alcohol problems, and there's usually a system in place to help and assist them. Again, as long as you're not affecting your clients, the state bar usually sort of kind of just works with you and helps you. So I would imagine, though, that this is going to be something he's going to have to report because he's charged with a felony. So most likely it's going to be a mandatory report that he's going to have to file with the state bar, assuming they don't know about it incidentally. But other than that, probably not. I would say
And
likely not.
there are, it's not like not everything is losing a license. You can have sanctions, you can have suspensions, you can have, deferred prosecution agreements through the bar, for example, complete drug, rehab, or go through a bar program or something like that. So,
I'm just looking at
Rosie one has a good point there. But I'll say about a tragedy, and I've been confronting a number of tragedies, and I see Fiery Red podcast was in our thing, and what is tragedy? What is tragedy? It's tragedy because there's innocent victims all around these type of things. There's 5 children here. There's the extended family. There's other families, this April person and that family, and there's children, and there's people that are dependent. There's people that look up to things. It's not just this one person. We're ringed by circles of social circles. I mean, I got to say that, we were kind of sad about this, and, we had to pray for his family, but that's what I'm saying is it's more than just this individual. It's greater than you. And we're so individualistic in our society too, that we don't see that we're part of interlocking systems. So, it is, and a child dying is the absolute worst. You're right. But a child losing 2 parents, or losing, the love of a family that was, from what I saw, was healthy and good. And 5, I mean, there's a lot of tragedy here. So I don't think that that's an inappropriate word. There's obviously different types of strategies and levels of tragedies, right? My son just lost a very close friend to a car accident. He was riding a bicycle, and his friend Jacob is what we called him, because he has 2 Jacob friends. The other was Miami Jacob, and he was a brilliant kid and one of my son's closest friends, and was killed on riding his bicycle up in Purdue. And it's just, that hurts me so much, because the kid he was 20 years old, had so much potential, spent time at our home and took him out to dinner. And so, yes, I understand, like, it's the life that could be, it's that is taken from us, that is tragedy. Yeah, MG Law, we had a nice conversation.
Yeah, we had a very good conversation last night.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me on. I don't know, I'm so torn up about this, because that's like,
yeah,
I mean, what's the appropriate response of us people? Because it's such a weird thing, this internet medium, right? It's like, do we know this person? Is he a friend? How, you spend a lot of time with him. You've admired, you've had interactions, and maybe, don't always agree. It's a weird thing to be on here talking publicly about these type of things. Yeah. On the one hand, there's legal analysis, which MLS did a good job on, and we are all professionals. On the other hand, it's kind of somebody we know. It's like, this is odd.
Yeah. So this is being purported through Kiwi Farms as a portion of the police report. I don't know how, take it with a grain of salt, right? It came through Kiwi Farms, but 3 baggies that field tested positive for cocaine and weighed 5.49 grams, with packaging, 8 green colored tablets that field tested positive for ketamine, digital scale that field tested positive for cocaine, metal pan with white powder on it tested positive for cocaine, 2 snorting tubes, 2 metal cutters. The following items were located in a safe in the master bedroom: $100 bill with white powdery residue, field tested positive for cocaine. White baggie with white powder substance, cocaine scooper, 2 bags with baggie with a funnel, unknown brown substance. Additional firearms and ammunition were located in the garage. The total amount of measurable cocaine in the master bedroom was 26.67 grams, with packaging. Cocaine is a Schedule II controlled substance. Ketamine is a Schedule I controlled substance. Detective Pumlin met with Nicholas Rekieta outside the residence. He was read his Miranda rights, and he agreed to speak with officers without counsel. Rekieta indicated that he sleeps in the master bedroom with Kayla, indicated that April was at the home visiting. So that's a portion of the report that I have right now. And thank you. That was Murph's Turf in the chat. She posted that and sent me a link.
And here's my defense attorney brain. See, this is weird to do legal analysis on this kind of thing, but number one is, why were the police searching the house? What is the basis for that? Was there probable cause? Is there a warrant? Can you attack the warrant? And then there's a constructive possession question, which is like you said, he's talking to the police. He says, that's my master bedroom. Now, to me, I would suspect that the April person is going to put them with knowledge of the presence of the cocaine, because if you don't have knowledge of the cocaine within your sphere, so possession and control, constructive possession is quite a complex concept. So the prosecutor needs to link the drugs into the actual person. So they're in the master bedroom. That's his master bedroom. And therefore he has constructive control along with his wife of that master bedroom closet. But can you really, you have fingerprints on baggies, on use of items. There's an assumption, there's rebuttable presumptions. But if you get the April person to say they were going to the closet and getting it, now that establishes a direct connection. So there's constructive possession questions. So these are legal attacks, but usually they're losers in this type of thing. But
and that might be why April was released and not ultimately charged and brought to court for an arraignment. If what is being reported, she's just a guest, well, then it's hard to get constructive possession over a guest unless you have some sort of specific articulatable fact
that the guest brought it, something like that.
Yeah. MG, something I've been asking everyone. What are your thoughts on Nick representing his co-defendant / Mr. Rackett?
He wasn't with her today, but him for this was probably okay, but he can't represent. There's obviously a clear conflict of interest that's present, so I don't think he can represent her going forward.
That's my thought. It was like, if it was going to be anything, it was going to be a short 15-minute conversation facilitated by the jail facility, and then it was just she's gonna have to get her own counsel. Was she released or arraigned earlier? So my understanding is, at least according to the court clerk that was speaking, it sounds like she was released, not arraigned earlier. But I don't know that to be. It's just the way it sounded. It's like she wasn't actually brought to the court for an arraignment. She was released. And so it is no longer being held, I think is how it was phrased. I'd have to go back and take a listen again. But yeah, so that's a problem for Nick. We often, as defense attorneys, we say, okay, like Steve was saying, let's see if we could start attacking these things on what people say are technicalities, but are really constitutional rights, right?
Yes.
But otherwise, he's not going to get out of this if an officer is going to stand up there and say, yes, I saw this stuff. And then a lab tech is going to sit up there and say, yes, this stuff tested positive for cocaine. He's not going to get out of this on a conviction angle. It's a matter of making sure you take advantage of this to get yourself clean. Yeah. And that's going to be the most important part. It's not even the criminal charges.
The problems are, this is the thing. I feel like I've had this conversation so many times with so many clients. So it's not, the state doesn't care about you. All right, let's just get that clear. Really, in reality, the state is just a big old meat grinder that you can fall into. And, human frailties will bring you into that meat grinder, and it's going to, there are people in there. There may be people that want to help, and the system may be wanting to help. But ultimately, that system's a meat grinder. You have to honor yourself You have to love your family and your life enough to prevent yourself from jumping into the meat grinder, because the system, if he violates and he continues to do it and he does this and he gets caught again, they don't care. Their job is to grind you up into little tiny pieces. So, you have to love yourself, love God greater than yourself. You've got to have faith. And he is a man who had faith. I had to do a rebuttal stream last time I was on because he was making statements that to me were contrary to the fundamental precepts of Christianity. But that drug will lie to you. Drugs will lie to you and give you false. It's lies. And part of that is denial of your faith and denial of those fundamental things. So that's the answer. That's the light that needs to be followed. The state doing what it's going to do, it just recognize it for the evil machine that it is, and it's going to happen. But it's empowerment. You want to empower that machine, keep doing this stuff, and the machine will be empowered.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, how you guys?
Hey,
how you
Joe.
guys doing?
Came in the middle of a Gosney rant.
No, that's good. Gosney rants are awesome.
Joe rants are even better.
Yes.
Yeah. What did you think of that whole legal issue with respect to him being able to counsel her before her arraignment?
My gut instinct is what the judge's gut instinct is I think that's an unwaverable conflict. Because one of the fundamental things as an attorney is you can never put your own interest above that of a client. And because he's a co-defendant and because his interests are diametrically opposed to his other co-defendants, there's no way around that because no one is in the exact situation that the other defendant is in, that he would be immediately conflicted out because he would be essentially potentially placing himself in putting himself in a better position than his client, and you cannot do that. And that's unwaverable.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's waivable, but for purposes of this arraignment, I think this was the right call. Like allowing him to say that this is just an arraignment hearing at this stage. That perhaps there's no way if this were to go to trial and they don't plead out, there's obviously you're correct. There's no way that a lawyer can represent himself and a client at the same time, whether it's a wife or someone else, because the obvious inherent conflicts that frequently the accused will point fingers at each other in order to be exonerated. And how would a client be able to point at her own attorney? It wouldn't work. So, and we would assume that he may fail to present the option to her because of his own self-interest. So it's just, there's no way that can operate. So, but I do think he made the right call because, as far as not making a legal determination about whether or not it's waivable, so he enabled her essentially to try to waive it for purposes of this arraignment. And that's how I was interpreting what he was doing there. And I thought he was very respectful, the judge. I thought he would try being fair. And I don't think that, Nick I'm sure Nick would probably looked at it as he handled his job correctly. That's what I would think how he would read what this judge did, and allowing her to, at least waive it for purposes of arraignment and talk to someone that she knows and obviously trusts and loves and gets their professional guidance. But that for going forward, when it comes to actually trying to defend herself from these charges, that she would likely need alternative counsel. I do think that the $100,000 bail combined between them it's kind of high. I mean, I thought that was if it was 15 and 30 total, okay, that I understand. $100,000 is that's a lot of money on a bond for a guy who's
it's kind of high.
He's not really a flight risk. Right. I mean, everyone knows who he is and where he is, and it's possible that that's a little bit high. So,
couple things too. Is one is they keep calling this arraignment. To me, this is called a first appearance, which is a review for probable cause in a setting of bond. Arraignment is when he's formally charged by the prosecutor's office with an information or piece of paper listing charges. And so that would, and then you plead guilty or not guilty.
That was a Rule 5 apparently in Minnesota, and he waived that and set it for the next hearing.
No. I respectfully disagree.
He waived reading of the charges today.
He waived. They each waived reading the charges, which was a wise move on a social media level. He's like, why the hell do I need millions of people hearing the judge reading off my charges to me? I can read the damn paper myself. And the judge said that that he combined them. That normally they're two different. He made this more explicit when Kayla was up there, from my understanding, that normally those two are two different appearances, and that they both decided to combine them into one. So this did end up being an arraignment.
Pronouncing there was no not guilty plea.
Well, that's true.
It was simply a bond hearing. So to me, this is what I would define as a first appearance. Even though the judge called it arraignment, there's no information. The state attorney's office or what the prosecutors have not filed formal charges, and he has not pled not guilty yet. So it's basically he has been taken into custody. They set bond and bond conditions and reviewed for probable cause. That's the first appearance.
Yeah, it's a first appearance, but they call it.
Right. So there's an article here from Fox 9, local affiliate, and it's talking about this. So it says, according to the charges, law enforcement attempted to execute a search warrant on May 23rd at Rekieta's home. Was greeted by a girl at the front door who would not let them inside. After Rekieta refused to provide the door code, law enforcement used a door ram to get inside and found Kayla, April, and 4 juveniles inside. Law enforcement proceeded to search the master bedroom and bathroom, where they allegedly found a variety of drug paraphernalia, including 3 small baggies that tested positive for cocaine, 8 green tablets. We went over that. A digital scale, several other items. Authorities found a 6-hour AR with several magazines and loose ammunition underneath the bed, a spent shell casing in the bedroom floor, and located additional firearms and ammunition in the garage, according to the court records. Police took Rekieta and his wife into custody, and he told law enforcement that he and his wife stayed in the master bedroom, where law enforcement claimed that most of the drug paraphernalia was allegedly refused to answer questions about the cocaine, according to the court records. Before his arrest, some online users had raised concerns about Rekieta's health this week, sharing a clip of him appearing to doze off during a stream. Law enforcement noted Rekieta had several injuries to his arms at the time of his arrest. They described the injuries as sores that are common with controlled substance use, charges say. Rekieta, who owns a law firm based in Spicer, saw his online following skyrocket during. We don't need it. I'm just looking about the charges. Okay, so that's it. So apparently there was some battering rams, some search warrants that were being executed. And
so as a defense attorney, you're going to want to see the source of the information from the warrant.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like they had inside information of where the cocaine was. There's a lot of questions here that they will see in discovery. So, he asked for discovery from the state. State's going to turn that over, going to be able to examine the warrant for sufficiency. There's a lot of unknowns here. Doesn't look good. At least a little to say. I will also,
does he have a black eye? I mean, here, let me pull it up. Is this a black eye?
Like,
I don't see a black eye.
It's right.
The shadow.
Yeah, his right eye
by his nose. The shadow by his nose looks like a black eye. It's a lot.
Yeah. There's another picture that it does look like he has a black eye.
He's got to be careful representing his wife going forward too, because you talk about bar consequences. Having these kind of conflicts can also generate bar problems. Going in and representing a co-defendant. I mean,
I expect she'll get alternative counsel.
I imagine so too.
I don't think they'd let her waive that. I don't see how you let her waive that. I mean, from a philosophical legal perspective, I don't see how you let her waive that.
I don't think she can.
Yeah, I'll tell you this much. I don't know if you guys noticed, but a lot of people were speculating that he was in the Monday stream, where he obviously looked terrible. That he was engaging in lewd behavior online. I think because of the jerking of his arm, he had the same jerking of his arm in prison.
That's some kind of tremor. It could be a tremor.
That's my point. That's my point. Is I think they said that it was less pronounced today, but I noticed it. If you go back and look, you'll notice it again. I'm I'm very confident he was not engaging in lewd behavior, but that it was likely the same tremors that we saw today is what we all saw on Monday. In the sense that sort of almost cleared that up for anyone who was trying to.
Well, and regardless, it's basically we're just seeing bad effects of something, right?
Well, that's my point is that I don't think it was like he was. I think a lot of people were trying to basically try to embarrass him by claiming that he was engaging in lewd behavior, and I think that what we saw today actually helps, exonerate that claim from having legitimacy, because he still seems to have that tremor in his arm today. So
yeah, I'm going back and looking and just to see if I see it. I didn't really notice it, but I wasn't really looking for it either. So it might be just a nervous tick.
Anyway, so
I was telling Joe, I don't know if you heard, I had and I'd like a little guy. This is amazing what we do on public streams, But one of my son's closest friends passed away.
There's no attorney-client privilege now, by the way. Yeah,
but he was he was we call him Jew Jacob. My son has two very close friends, Jew Jacob and Miami Jacob. And Jew Jacob was in Purdue. He's 20 years old and was killed riding his bicycle. And one of the most beautiful people, such a great kid.
I'm sorry. All right.
And I wanted to reach out to you for some guidance based on the Jewish tradition.
I'll tell you. When I was I'll just share with you that when I was 20 or 21, so a second cousin of mine passed away, who was like 17, 18, passed away in a car accident. And so in Jewish tradition, the parents and family sit Shiva, which they sit in mourning for a week, and people come and visit them.
Right.
And try and console them. And so I went to visit his parents, and I couldn't even understand the levels that the father was on. I was in awe, where he basically was saying, he was talking about how his child was a gift from God, and that not every gift from God is going to be there for the rest of your life, and that he was like grateful to God for giving him an 18-year gift. And looking at it from that perspective, I was just like, I couldn't even understand how a parent so quickly could take such a healthy attitude towards embracing it. I was in awe of this man, that at a time when most people would be cursing God, like he was using it as an opportunity to thank God for giving him that gift for 18 years. And yeah, we don't know. We don't know why this happens or that happens,
Well, it's a perspective that, I mean, like this frivolity that we're dealing with here, this stupidity of, life is so precious. Life is a gift from God. And, it's like somebody was talking about tragedy. And, there's different levels of tragedy, right? And to me, I can't think of any greater tragedy. An only child, a beautiful kid. He spent... Sorry.
No, I understand. I understand.
Okay.
You don't have to apologize.
I was thinking about you because he was such a good kid. He was so smart, so much future, touched so many people. And it's kind of like, I don't know. it's life, and but he was he was a very faithful Jewish kid. He really honored his faith.
Yeah.
And I really, we had so many. I don't know. It's really torn up because I guess as parents, we have an only child who's his age, and this was an only child. It's just hard.
No, I understand.
And whatever is going on in your life, things can always be so much worse. It's kind of
Yes.
And that's why sort of I look at this situation that we're all looking at with Nick, and I am so confident that he is going to use this as like a wake-up call. And because I know how much he loves his children, I know his strength of character, I know his conviction, I know that he's actually, despite being deeply flawed, that he's a great man, and that he's not just brilliant and creative and uniquely talented in this sphere that we're doing right now, but that he is genuinely a great man who loves his children. And I am very confident that that this is the splash of water. We all saw what we saw from his Monday stream. That was not Nick Rekieta. That was not anything that any of us had ever seen from Nick Rekieta. Yeah. And that was a shell of a man who looked like he was spiraling towards a potential terrible outcome, which could end in violence or self-harm or something like that, or accidental self-harm, unintentional self-harm, like too many of us have heard stories of. And in that sense, I'm hopeful that this is, a hidden blessing for a change in his life.
Well,
towards him becoming Nick again. We all want to see. We all just want freaking Nick back. We just want Nick back. We want the Nick that we all fell in love with. We just want Nick back, and I'm hopeful. I really believe in this man. That I think we're going to see Nick back. It's not going to be tomorrow or next month. It's a long road back.
It's going to take time.
But I think that redemption arc, I think we're going to see that redemption. I'm predicting a redemption arc, and I wouldn't predict that about very many people. I'm predicting that for him because I know that he's motivated to help his children grow into the people that he wants to see them grow into, that he has a deep love for them and his family, and that he wants everyone around him to be happy. No matter what his detractors would ever say about him or how he could be like rude or offensive or whatever, at the end of the day, he's an entertainer. He taught me what I'm doing is entertainment, and we're providing news and information and content, and we're try and help society get better by developing healthier perspectives on things. But at the end of the day, he's an entertainer, and part of what he loves about doing that is that he wants people around him happy, and that's reflective of a very pure heart. So that's why I'm saying I have the utmost confidence in Nicholas Rekieta that man is going to right this ship, and that what we saw today is really the low point of his life.
I hope you're true. I hope you're correct.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. And Joe, one of the things that I always try to do is I've had people say to me, don't go on his show because he'll drag you down, right? But I think it's incumbent upon us, people of faith especially, to instead drag people up and to say, okay, there's an alternative way, and I'm there to serve as a voice, an ear, but also an example, and to not endorse and not like play your game. I'm not your friend because we do this thing together, this drugs or whatever I'm here because I want you to be a better person.
Yeah.
And that's where I want you to come to me and we should strengthen each other. That's why, I talk about we go into church. We go to church because we're all weak we're all weak individually, but together when we worship, we can be strong together and we can build each other up and get the best out of each other.
It's such a great message that is laced into what you just said, Steve, because this is something that every person on the planet can learn from. That we all know people who are in our circles in different spheres who are labeled friends, And the difference between a good person and a bad person is someone who actually wants you to be long-term happy, not just short-term, like having fun, but actually long-term happy. That's someone who actually cares about you, as opposed to being your friend because they care about themselves. When we care about ourselves, I need someone to have fun with, so I need to sort of, play the devil type of role of luring you into having a good time with me for today, and don't worry about tomorrow. And they basically, that's a selfishness, which is reflective of that they don't care about you. At the end of the day, when the crap hits the fan and you end up being arraigned in front of a judge, they're not worried about you. They're just worrying about themselves, whatever trouble they can get into. And it's so important to be discerning when we're forming and cementing relationships with different people, to recognize that the way you see them treat other people, if it's negative or positive, that's a reflection of how they're long-term going to be treating you. It doesn't mean you cast judgment on them, but the proper term someone mentioned to me last night is discernment. Just being discerning as to who you allow into your life, and recognize, is this a force that is going for my long-term to make me happier, or long-term more miserable? And that's how you can discern someone who's a genuinely good person and actually cares about you, or is basically a vice, a personified vice that's in your life.
See, man, Joe, you are wonderful. I love you, buddy. I mean, you really have great moral wisdom, and that is a gift. And I'm really glad that you're you're out there, you're speaking, and you need to always, that's a strength, and you are a gift to us. And I fully associate everything you're saying. I wish I could say it as well as you did, because you're a beautiful person.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, did anyone see the Dragon T video?
That's the first time I really became aware of that bad stream that somebody, it came up in my feed, and I'm like, because I remember the Dragon Treasure, he's just always selling his tea, and like every time he's like, what do you have to say, Dragon? I sell my books, but man, that guy was selling tea. And then he said that, and then I saw that video. My gosh, that Monday we're talking about. But
that was he referred to old Nick, because that's the Nick that I first started watching.
I went on his afternoon stream. It was like not a midnight stream, but it was only like a month or two ago. Yeah. And I felt like I had the old Nick. There were a couple things he said that I didn't like, that I had to think about as the appellate lawyer. I'll get back to you in a couple days on that. And I redressed them right in a Rumble stream, but basically faith issues. But I thought I enjoyed it. He was there. He was present. He was trying to be funny. Sometimes not. Sometimes, but jocular and the Nick that we like. And this is the thing. We have all of those things within us. We have plus and minus. We have good and evil. We have things to give. And we want, like I said, we need to encourage each other. More of the good stuff, less of the bad stuff. I mean, it's kind of that simple, really. Yeah.
Yeah, and someone had said to me on Discord that for whatever Nick had going on, he always seemed like he was devoted to his family and helping his friends and doing all of that. And I did see that in him until recently, right? I don't watch him every night because it's late, like Joe too.
I never
can't stay up that late, guys. But
I never watched the midnight stuff after. I mean, because I tried a couple times and it just killed me. So that whole midnight show thing, it was just not in my wheelhouse. I'm like a working guy, So, but that's why he kind of got away from the daytime streaming. And the daytime streaming stuff, I thought, that was good. Maybe that was part of the drift. I don't know.
Someone asked me why he stopped streaming trials. And one of the things when you're streaming trials, and you know this, David, it's like when you pick a trial, if you pick the wrong trial, when you pick the right trial, oh my God, you feel as if like you're making money, your base is growing, you're working like an animal. Whenever you're working a trial, it's almost like you're the lawyer for the trial yourself. That's how many hours you're working. You work, especially if you're doing your regular stream, your regular night stream. You're basically working 14 hours, And it doesn't seem like work because what, you're just sitting there in front of your camera and talking? Like, how does that work? No, your brain is constantly engaged because you have to keep the show for anyone who just walked in, keep them updated, make sure that everyone is informed and listening to what's happening. Your brain has to be engaged throughout. And it's taxing. It's so taxing. And when it's a depth be heard type trial, a Rittenhouse type trial, I can predict the Alec Baldwin trial, that the public is going to be there and that the rain is going to come. Yeah, you're more than happy. You're thrilled to have the opportunity to do that. When it's a trial that you take that doesn't generate the same kind of interest, and then there's boring day after boring day of really just necessary legal elements, but are just boring to hear testimony about. When it's explaining, like, some expert witness going on for 45 minutes about their CV or Cellbrite data or telephone data or this data and that's so freaking boring. And you could have full days like that. And you have to do that, and you're doing it to an audience which is potentially, if it's a boring trial or it's a trial that the public doesn't have much interest in, even you have an interest in it, you could be doing it to an audience that's a third the size of what you're going to have that night. And you're like, I'm spending 8 hours here talking to what, for me, based on the size I'm used to, is tiny compared to what I'm used to doing, and killing myself and not growing. But I've committed to doing this trial now because I told my audience I'm going to do it. So now I'm married to this, and I don't know if this trial is going to go for another 2 weeks or another 2 months. And it's like, oh my God, like you sort of feel like I said yesterday, it feels like a death march where it's like you volunteered for just to be a slave. And it's an awful, so that's why there's a massive upside, there's a massive risk and massive reward. And not all the time do they pan out. So you sort of want to be very selective to be confident. We as attorneys are naturally cautious about how we spend our time. And that's one of the things they drill into us when we start practicing, that, as Abraham Lincoln said, your time is your only commodity. So So to invest in that, it's a scary thing if you're not confident that the public is going to be there with you, sitting through it day by day. So, yeah, and I think, like I said, it's very taxing. So to do that, as a full-time job, that would be hard. It's a tough job.
It was exhausting for me, just
the Crumbly,
covering
right?
stuff, ramping up to the Crumbly case. Yeah, and that's why after the Crumbly case was done, I was like, all right, I'm out. I'm retiring from YouTube.
Yeah, right? I know. It's really hard. People don't realize, because even before the stream, you have to set up the stream, you have to make your thumbnails, you have to put out notifications, you have to set up on Rumble separate from setting it up on YouTube or whatever. It's like you have all these different things, and then you have to do a wrap-up afterwards, and then you want to take little clips and take those clips and make those, and a segment that's really important to help draw attention to it and get more views that way. So now you got to do editing, and it's just, oh my God, this is so much.
The last stream, I think I was on Rekieta's a lot with the Murdoch trial.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Vice's. I can't even remember. I just go, it was just a torture. And that trial was like, and this is, I will say that
the Murdoch trial was great. That was a great trial.
Well, except that
except for the 3 weeks of the financial crimes.
That's true. That's true. But at least you know what? When you're sitting through 3 weeks of financial crimes and you're sitting there and you have 3,000 people watching with you, that's very different than sitting through 3 weeks of financials where there's 200 people. And I know to most people that
Valhalla helped me. Valhalla, he said he's on here. Valhalla Awaits is one of my, I love that guy. And he kind of, I had a break about in December because I was starting to worry about how many people were watching or planning a stream, like what you're saying, the work that you're doing. And I respect what you're doing. Trust me. I mean, because I was like starting to get in that mode. I'm starting to think, well, I want a lot of subscribers or what, but then it's like, it's never enough. No matter what you have. It's like, well, I have 200 people watching. I have 800. I have 1,000. Well, I don't have 2,000. Now I have 2,000. Why don't I have more subscribers? It's like now, and what's the algorithm and what am I going to say? And I got to have new content. And so I'm like, forget it. I'm going to go on when I want, when I have something to say, and I'm not going to work. I'm not going to comment on something legal unless I really, really want to. And, and so Valhalla kind of freed me from that. And now I don't worry about it. I just go on and socialize and say what I think. And it's not that, but I understand the pressures and what Joe's talking about. See, he's under a lot of pressure because that's his career and that's his life. And that's the all these algorithms and super chats and all that stuff. And it's so outside of your control. I mean, I don't know. You guys got, I made that choice that like, I'm off that ride, right? You know?
Yeah.
So I'll just come on your guys' channels and provide whatever you want me on, but otherwise.
It's almost like when you take on a new client, right? And it's like, you sort of have an expected anticipation as to the level of work that you're taking on, but then all of a sudden it can just take on a life of its own. If there's this motion and that motion and this motion, and the next thing you know, this trial just becomes this that you thought was an animal that was the size of a puppy, and all of a sudden it's this gorilla that you're just like, oh my God, am I going to spend my entire life on this? Especially if the client is struggling for funds to pay you. It's really the same thing.
It's kind of hard though to say, like, because when you're talking about friends, it's such a weird relationship because, how much interaction is this person? It's like, okay, because we spend a lot of time. I've had meetings, I've had dinner, and then, but the people that are directly around you within your real inner circle, the very tight group. And I don't think any of us are in that group. And that's when I think friends and the people that are going to matter. The people that matter are in that group. Like, it's easy for me to sit up here and say, oh, call me and I'm for you and all that from this distant place. But the people that are really going to make a difference when the lowest points are reached and when the need is there are the people in that very tight inner circle. And that's where those people need to not be enablers and be instead people of faith and people of good conscience who want the best and aren't just hangers on, so that tight inner circle. And I don't have any insights into that at all about what's around.
Joe, there was a chat I started earlier. I don't know if you've been following Nick's civil case at all. I think you have been, haven't you? I don't know. But the judge on his civil case has now been assigned on the criminal case, and wondering what your thoughts were. Because he's been kind of dogging her a little bit on some of the streams. And I feel like that could be enough to maybe ask her to recuse herself. But what were your thoughts on that? Or MG, because you guys haven't answered this question yet.
I hope she does.
We hope so. But I mean, it's not uncommon. It's a small county. So it wouldn't be uncommon for the same judge to hear your civil and criminal trials. It's just the things he said.
It's very, very scary. It's very scary. I mean, look, Judge Merchan has refused to recuse himself, and he has a lot more conflicts than Judge Fisher. At least, I mean, it seems like he has. It seems like he has more conflicts. I shouldn't say that he does, but it seems like he does. So, yeah, I would hope, but I don't know that she's gonna get required to. I doubt that she's going to be required to. And
I don't think she's going to be required to, but I feel like the motion should be coming. And hopefully Nick doesn't represent himself going forward either. He did for today. I understand that, you don't have necessarily an attorney with you for your arraignment or whatever we want to call it. But he definitely needs to get his own attorney who can rise above all of this and look at everything objectively and provide proper advice to Nick.
Are you volunteering?
Yeah, okay. I want to get ProHawk application. You know what? Nick can sponsor me with my ProHawk application. I'll represent him. Yeah, there we go. But he needs his own attorney, and his wife needs a separate attorney, unfortunately.
Yep.
Good or bad for Nick. I see rumors in the chat about April being a plant and April wearing a wire and whatever. Who knows? I don't know where we do know that she was released apparently without an arraignment. I know people, I pulled up one of the chats that says charges dismissed against her. I'm not sure exactly where the source is coming from, but it looks like charges were dismissed against her.
Where do you see that? I've been looking for that. I don't see
somebody's in chats like all caps keep saying that.
Yeah, I see that, but I'm wondering what I'm just trying to figure out.
In the hearing, after Nick's arraignment, he had made a motion to be able to speak with his clients, both his clients who were his co-defendants, as he was representing them as counsel. And the clerk had informed the court and Rekieta that April had been released.
Yes.
And had already gone home. And
I'm
so
sharing
we knew
something
at
with
that
you.
point.
I'm sharing something with you.
What is this?
Ethan Ralph claims seems to be sharing something from April. It looks like it's a. That's what.
Someone else did this to me.
That's what she's saying.
That's weird. I don't know what that means.
I think that's probably the source.
Okay, that might be the source. But if you listen to the hearing, I think it was clear that he was, that she was released prior to the arraignment. And we were going through the news article, which talked about where the stuff was located and what stuff they found. And it seemed to be most of it was in the bedroom. And if you're talking about constructive possession of it, it would be clear that Nick and his wife would have access to the bedroom, but this woman might not. So there's nothing to stick. The other thing too is like they can arrest her for this stuff and take it to the prosecutor, and the prosecutor says this isn't enough, or we would rather just go after Nick and his wife, and we don't really care about this woman. You know, they don't have to bring charges. Sorry, what were you saying, Joe?
Yeah, I was just going to ask with respect to that article, which was breaking down from Fox, breaking down a little more detail than the rest of us had about the story here. When they say that the gun was under the bed, it could be in a safe under the bed when they say that, right? I mean, we don't know.
Well, it said that there was a safe found. Hang on, where is it? Law enforcement proceeded to search the master bedroom and bathroom where they allegedly found a variety of drug paraphernalia, digital scale, and other several items tested positive for cocaine. Authorities found a 6-hour AR and several magazines and loose ammunition underneath the bed, a spent shell casing on the bedroom floor, and located additional firearms and ammunition in the garage, according to the records. Now, we were looking at another document. Let me see if I can pull it up here. This one seems to indicate ammunition and firearm or additional firearms and ammunition were located in the garage. Wait, where is it? Items found.
Oh, they give the amounts there.
Yeah.
They give,
yeah.
26.7 grams with packaging.
Mm-hmm.
So
of cocaine and ketamine.
And 25 is the cutoff for where there's a new threshold level. It goes from like 5 years to.
So they're including the packaging in that. So the packaging could weigh 15 ounces or 15 grams.
Yeah,
so they really only have 10 grams of cocaine.
Yeah. I mean,
well, at least they're honest enough to mention the fact that they weighed the packaging as well.
Yeah.
This is kind of like when the speed limit is 74 and they mark you at 76, and you're just like, really? I happen to be 2 miles right off over that cutoff. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And I think that the prosecutors frequently recognize that those numbers, even if they were true, they seem conveniently inflated, so that they're probably more amenable towards looking at it as they're going to struggle to get on the higher level charge and look at.
I still stand by my prediction. My original prediction didn't include count 3 because I didn't know about it at the time. But count 1, which is the possession, is going to be pled down to, and then the firearm charge are going to be dismissed with handing over the firearms, and then the child endangerment will probably be rolled into a plea on count 1, and he'll get services without any jail time, therapy, counseling, drug addiction sort of treatment, things like that. And he'll have to stay clean, probably for about 5 years, be under probationary control. That's my prediction of the outcome of this. I feel like I've been doing this long enough that I can safely predict, barring something weird going on, I think that's going to be the conclusion of this case. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully he takes advantage of the opportunity that this is. Now, people will say, this is horrible, is to be charged with something, but when you do have a drug addiction, you've got to hit the wall somewhere, and most people can't do it on their own. And he needs to take fully into account this opportunity that he has, and hopefully he will, and do better for him, for his channel, for all of his fans, for his wife, for his kids, and everything. So really hope he can do it and move past this. But yeah, I mean, 26.67 grams with 2 grams of packaging puts us under 25. That's why I say this is going to be pled down. I think this is going to be pled down at the end of the day.
Yeah, my
What's your
experience-
source for that? Can you share that in the private chat so I can
Yeah, I'll send you everything.
appreciate that?
Yeah, my experience is when it's close, when it's on the line like that, generally prosecutors will favor the will plea it down to the step below when it's on the edge like that. Packaging is going to be de minimis. I don't think packaging will get you even below that, but there can be shrinkage over time in the storage room just from loss of I know that happens with weed a lot. Is that they first measure the weed and then it loses all its humidity and it like halves its weight while it's in the evidence room. So you always want to have it secondarily tested, but you don't know because you don't know what your prosecutors are and you don't know what that office is. You're putting your life, you're empowering people who don't care about you. And you're putting your life in your hand on these people, get out of the way from that system. The larger problem, even though the criminal problem is big, the larger problem is the personal, the individual, which we all face every day. But you're allowing external forces outside your control into your life and giving them power over you. Never a good option.
Joe, I sent you that stuff on Twitter.
Thank
I
you.
just DM'd it to you. So
Awesome.
because I have them saved as images. So
Good. That way I'll actually have it.
Yeah.
As opposed to being lost. Thank you. Where did you get? What was your source for that?
I have so many people sending me stuff. I've got
Okay.
people. It's not a problem of saying it. It's just a problem of knowing it because I can't remember who sent me what. So there's been Murph's Turf's been a great source. She's in the chat for a lot of this stuff, and then I have Little Pill and some others have sent me some things, and some others have asked to remain anonymous. But people are just sending me all kinds of stuff, and then I for the court information, I just went to the court's website and started making phone calls. But yeah, so that's what I got. I don't have too much else to say. I've been streaming for about 2.5 hours, which is 2.5 hours longer than I normally stream.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on here.
Yeah, no problem at all. I don't know what else to add other than, I just really hope that this is going to be an opportunity for Nick and he could take full advantage of it. And you hate to see it happen, but when someone's really struggling, especially with this type of thing, sometimes this is the wake-up call that they need. And thankfully, it's only this, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's
Amen.
like no other way worse stuff that could have happened.
That's a great point, David. I was thinking that when Steve was asking about his situation there with his friend, I was like, thank God that this is the story we're reporting on, because it could have been a much worse story than this.
Right,
So,
and this is what you're saying. What is that bottom? Ultimately, the bottom is where we all face the end of our life, right? And all the destruction that can happen between there and there. We pray that this is a bottom that bounces back, and it's a recovery story. And all of these things are reminders to us to humble ourselves and to pray and to seek out people who are on our side and supportive, and not fake people who want to reach out to be part of your way up, right? And then abandon you on the way down. I mean, really gut check who is around you and who is a good influence and who is not. So for everybody out there, right?
Yeah. MG, anything on, you've been a little quiet, I know, but you're not. Working.
Yeah, well, I'm working, but I'd certainly hope, at least if only for the kids' sake, that this is a wake-up call that they both need to get help and to clean up.
Yeah.
Because they've got 5 kids under the age of 18 that need them.
Definitely. So, all right. Thanks everyone in chat for hanging out. Steve, MG, Good Logic, Uncivil, Andrew from earlier. Thanks everyone for being
Joe,
on the
can you
panel.
hang out for just a second?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. And I will see you guys all. I'll be streaming this weekend, so check it out. Check out my other channels, and hopefully the mods could put links in there. And everyone else, have a great day.
When I was young, my daddy said, gotta keep one eye open in your bed, 'cause there's a time coming when the devil gonna come for you. So my trigger finger said